It's recommended that the board return to open session. Can I have a motion? Mr. Chili, second by Mr. Sparta. All in favor?
Aye.
We are in open session. Item F is approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion for items F1 through 4?
Move. Second.
Mr. Chili, second by Mr. Sparta. Questions or comments? Okay, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr.
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Abstain.
Mr. Sparta?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Nunziata?
Yes.
Mrs. Gutierrez?
Yes.
Mr. Tilley?
Yes, abstain as noted.
Mr. Harris?
Hey, Jen, can we just ask you, like scream like you do at home? Because over here we got this fan going, so.
Can you hear me now?
Do you have a microphone? You want to come up here?
All right, item G is correspondence.
Yes, I'd like to read 3 letters, medical letters, into the record. One for employee 5987, one for employee 6875, and for employee 6293 that are either looking for medical leave of absence or maternity or return from maternity. I also have a letter from Margaret McDonald, who is a high school English teacher, indicating her resignation for retirement as of 12/31/20. I have a letter from a Loretta Keller, who is a part-time aide at Cedar Mountain, indicating her resignation for reasons of retirement as of 11/4/2020. And then I have a letter from Diana Novak, first grade teacher, indicating her resignation effective 1/14/2021. And a letter from Ashley Ilf, indicating her resignation from Glen Meadows Middle School wrestling coach only, effective 11/17/2020.
Thank you. Item H is the President's report. My report this evening will be very brief. We are a week away from Thanksgiving, and I know that unfortunately Thanksgiving will be very different for many of us this year. I want to take this opportunity tonight to thank all of our faculty, staff, and administration for their hard work, their commitment to safety, and their dedication to education as they continue to serve our students each day under the incredibly challenging circumstances of COVID-19. I also want to thank our district families and our students who are working hard and continuing to show up each day, whether in person or virtually, to continue to receive an education under the most trying circumstances caused by this pandemic. Please have a happy Thanksgiving, and please do your part during the holiday season to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your community. Item I is committee reports.
I have a finance report. Finance committee met November 10th. Everybody was present, I believe. You were there. No, Mr. Chili was not there. We missed him. We discussed the auditor's report. We discussed revenue and expense, and we over the long range, and just a lot of discussions about expenses and revenues for the next coming months and years.
Thank you. Any other committee reports this evening?
I'll give you an update on negotiations. We signed a final MOA on October 23rd, and the VTEA presented the information to the membership. They are holding virtual meetings on Monday and Tuesday to answer any questions that they may have, and the association plans to hold a vote on Monday, November 30th, and Tuesday, December 1st. So I believe we'll plan on having it on the agenda for the public meeting December 17th for the board to vote.
Thank you. Any other committee reports this evening?
I'll give an update for special services. Administration asked to meet with the special services committee. We agreed. So there'll be a meeting in December. The date is to be decided. It's in the process of being scheduled to discuss a single topic item.
Thank you. Item J is public participation. I wanted to just briefly, before we go into public participation, just address some of the changes to our public participation format, because I understand that we made changes from how we've been doing things for the last few months. Just to reiterate, the state has put in place new regulation on how districts or any public body in the state who host meetings remotely are to be accessible to the public. That included having the ability for audio and visual participation by members of the public, telephonic participation, write-in participation, and our district just was not ready to implement those changes as quickly as we would have needed to in order to be ready for tonight and to have a smooth meeting. So for that reason, the district last week made the decision, amongst other reasons, to for this week go back to an in-person meeting. Whether that's going to change going forward as we enter an orange or a red zone on the COVID map, we will address that going forward. But I just wanted to provide a little bit of context for members of the public behind some of the changes that might have seemed abrupt if you didn't have it. Other than that, I know that there are members of the public here who may have some input tonight. The first item for public participation on the agenda is typically for items on the agenda only and any student comments. But understanding that you couldn't submit your comments virtually, I'd like to make item J public participation for any comments, just to give you the opportunity to make your comments. And if you can't stay for the full length of the meeting, this way you don't have to wait till the end of the meeting. So I'll open the floor to public comments at this time.
I have 3 children in the district. As a learning graduate, a president of Voluntary Halls SCA, a soccer coach here in town, among many other open outlets, I'm truly invested in this community, and to say my burning pride is strong is an understatement. I have a vast connection with numerous parents, teachers, and members of this amazing community. I left Vernon to attend college and found myself back here to raise my family. I want to start off by saying thank you. Thank you for the teachers. Thank you to the Board of Ed, and thank you for all the individuals, peoples, and families that have made it the impossible task of returning to school hybrid possible. These are difficult times, and we as a community and school district are in an unwinnable situation. But instead of letting these difficult decisions divide us, we need to work together to come up with a feasible solution that are best interests in our children and in this district. These children are counting on us as parents, teachers, and administrators to do what is best for them, their education, and their mental well-being. I believe it starts with learning how to effectively communicate within our families, from teachers to students, administrators to teachers, union representatives to the board, parents to teachers, and all other relationships that impact our children. As I talk to parents and teachers throughout this process, that is absolutely the #1 frustration for all parties. We understand that we are in an uncharted territory, but the one thing we can do is be better in this area. That means the #1 frustration we have could be alleviated with little to no impact on the budget and help us to be more fluid, transparent, and impactful as a group. Why wouldn't we want to do that? I've heard children who had a great day at school coming off the bus, running off the bus, ripping off their masks, and showing us a smile we have missed so greatly. However, I have also heard teachers who feel unheard, misled, and frustrated. Parents who can't even get the teacher to respond to an email. Children who are frustrated with their situation and that their emotional well-being has been compromised. Let's just reflect on which of all these members mentioned. No matter the angle you look into this, the children are the ones suffering here. When 56 staff members take it upon themselves to perform a sick out, or what we may call it, and force the admins to make a decision that puts their back against the wall, are we even considering the letdown, frustration, and pure defeat this creates for our children? My kids left school Thursday expecting their new classes, their new friends, and their new normal. Their hearts were shattered seconds later, and this is not okay. I'm not going to lie, I would like my children to go back 5 days a week full time. I know there are districts out there that have completed this to date, and numerous communities with equal size and structure. I have heard comments about us as parents pushing this because we need childcare or are fed up with them fighting at home or we just don't understand. While I can speak for myself and many others that are here tonight and saying that you're not my child's babysitter, I am home with my kids. You're my 3 children's teacher. The job in which you signed up to do, still receive full pay to do, and are contracted to do so. Do I feel you deserve the support and safety to do it? Yes. Do I see the countless hours and adjustments you have had to make to perform your job? Yes. But the union has requested numerous things from our admin and our board, and they have delivered in so many aspects. Let's work towards a solution that gets you back into these classrooms willingly and wholeheartedly. We are not seeing that cohesiveness. We have had a handful of actual in-class days for these kids, and sadly, I've allowed through a student so that I've decreased those numbers by 4 days. The days are not full days. I'm honored to say my son finished his first marking period of 4th grade with complete straight A's. But what did he actually learn and consume knowledge-wise is incredibly minimal. No disrespect to his current teacher, but it's simply because of the lack of time. What we call virtual learning here in Vernon is not engaging or fulfilling these kids, and as I sit there and walk them through their hurdles, I'm honestly blown away that a district so advanced in technology and skill set, we can't come up with a more impactful plan all around. I'm not naive. I'm quite sure we're a week away, if not days away, from being completely shut down by means out of all of your control. But when a plan is to be ironed out moving forward, we have to try harder and do better for our little ones. This is more damaging and more emotionally destroying on them than any adult in this world. We have to communicate. We have to work towards an in-school plan, and we have to keep the children and the children only in mind. Please throw out your personal agenda or your early retirement plans and get to work to provide new age 2020 ideas to all of your superiors. Let's throw out the fear of being misrepresented and open the lines of communication. Let's stop tiptoeing around each other and create some change here in Vernon.
Thank you. We'll just give Matt a moment to adjust the microphone. And if I did not mention already, and I believe you did, just please mention your name for a town before coming up. And when you do, you'll have 5 minutes, and Mr. Reed will speak time.
Good evening, you know, I'm President of Pleasant Valley Lake. I am extremely concerned about Governor Murphy's statement about schools today minimizing the risk associated with in-person instruction in this time of rapidly rising COVID cases in our state. As of November 14th, 4 out of 6 zones in New Jersey have a Cali rating of high, and COVID cases are rising by the hour. The NJEA has come out with a statement today, and I will highlight their information for you, but I also encourage you to read the full article. The NJEA has reported that school data reported by the state is misleading, at best because it does not include cases where students or staff are infected with COVID during school-related activities, such as sports and other extracurricular programs. School buildings and school-related activities are far more dangerous than the state's data indicate. Children's Hospital of Philadelphia's policy lab, which was previously advising districts and schools on how to safely reopen, is now calling for remote education. At the hospital's lab, children have a 15% infection rate, a number that has doubled in a week and is rapidly rising. Likewise, the CDC recently changed their guidance, saying that the body of evidence is growing that children of all ages are susceptible to COVID infections. As an educator, I want nothing more than to return to normalcy, where I can safely interact with my students in a normal school environment. I miss them tremendously. I agree that in-person is the best possible scenario for all children, but only when it's safe, and in too many places, it's just not safe. As we get closer to the holidays, where we cannot guarantee 100% compliance with the CDC's recommendation to not go outside the family members that we live with, we need to reflect on our plan. That being said, we need to start putting our energies into an issue that has received little relief. Although my children are in 4th grade, as an incoming board member, it has come to my attention that 6th through 12th grade, 100% virtual learners are still struggling emotionally and academically. Much energy has been put into getting the students back into the classroom. Yes, some of our students will fail, no matter what we do. Our teachers are doing everything they can to support learners, including working double the hours, on weekends, and ignoring their own families. I know because I see them in shared documents at 9 p.m., making sure the students know what work they've missed. I know because I'm doing the same thing for my students, and it's still not working. I ask, where do we go from here? Clearly, these teachers need more. Our students need more, and I know that we're capable of that. This has been mentioned by parents and board members on a number of occasions, and no solution other than allowing teachers to stream their classes live has been looked at or implemented that I can tell. Truthfully, no one ever comes to my office hours, and I'm sure that if you ask teachers here in Vernon, a lot of them will say the same thing. I have suggested 2 things in the past when all of these plans started. One, that students do their core subjects on their in-person days and their specials on hybrid days. That would give those students who are on hybrid learning more face-to-face time in their core subjects. The other thing I suggested was in any area possible to make 1 teacher period a day a virtual period so that those students at home could have direct instruction without the teacher needing to balance the students sitting in front of them as well. While I know that there are some classes where this is absolutely impossible due to certifications and the types of classes offered, I don't really feel that it was ever looked at, especially at the middle school level. I'm disappointed in the changes all the time. We really should have just had 1 plan and stuck with it. And 1 plan if we needed to shut down. By trying to put dates on phases, we're setting everybody up for failure. This is a pandemic, not a holiday. We have no idea what's going to happen from day to day. These false hopes not only give our kids false hope, but also make parenting more difficult for childcare that may or may not need to be arranged. I also know that there are lots of issues with 100% virtual. My own son is suffering by being 100% virtual. We are virtual because I live with 2 high-risk people. His intensities, and I know Dr. McKay, you know what I'm talking about, have been magnified 100 times, and now he needs occupational therapy. I am extremely fortunate that he also gets good grades, so at least we're not dealing with that. And that I could afford to go outside the district to get the help that he needs. Because in most districts, unless your child is failing, you do not get these services. We need to cast a wider net during 100% virtual learning to support families with these types of roadblocks.
I'm sorry,
urge you
Adina.
to-
I'm sorry, can you wrap it up? It's
Absolutely,
5
I'm
minutes.
last
Thank
sentence,
you,
I swear.
Thank you,
I
sorry.
urge you to realize, that's okay, that most likely we will not be back in school full-time till the spring, and to put your energy into making 100% virtual a much better experience for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Good evening. My name is Ashley Hinton. I live in the Sussex section of Vernon. I am a parent of a kindergartner here in the Vernon Township School District. And I also want to say that I too have an immunocompromised child at home outside of my child in the school district. I want to start off by saying a few things. I am here advocating for my child's schoolmates, and all the children whose parents stand before you tonight who are in disagreement with the current state of our in-person instruction for the 2020-2021 school year. Yes, we are aware that there is a worldwide pandemic in process. Yes, we are aware that the percentage of people can fall ill from the COVID-19 virus. We are aware of the difficulties that have been and are currently being presented for educational institutions. But I have to admit, I'm beginning to wonder if we're fully aware of the toll that the lack of in-person instruction is doing to our children. Let me state that this is in no way an attack on our teachers or our administration. We see you having to go above and beyond for our children. We see you up late at night posting your virtual lessons and doing double or even triple the work for the 2 cohorts and the virtual students. We hear you that you're missing our children. We aren't blaming you. We aren't against you. But what we are against is restricting our children further to that important instruction time. For those students that chose the hybrid option, they need to be in school. Our district has time and time again assured us that the school buildings are the cleanest and the safest buildings to be in. Yet we limit our children greatly to that. Our schools have not had any transmission rates from being in school. The cases that we have been notified about have been cases that are transmitted from outside activities. Our schools are a controlled environment with the tools and protocols for proper cleaning and methods in place to continue with this trend. Governor Murphy recently put out a statement with backed research that shows in-person instruction is safe. If these buildings truly are the safest place to be, then why are we not allowing our teachers, our administration, and the children the opportunity to be in person for longer periods of time? Our children are facing difficulties that are troubling not only as a parent, but as a community. The decline of mental health is on the rise. We are seeing tremendous upticks in these kids' mental health, higher than average levels of anxiety and depression. And let that sink in. These are children. If we allow for this to continue, we will have an even bigger pandemic on our hands, where we will have to combat treating mental health. We will see an increase in drug use, suicide rates, violence. I'm sure that seems extreme to some, but when left untreated and uncared for, anxiety and depression can be messy and downright completely detrimental. In-person instruction is more than just education. It's socialization, it's normalcy in uncertain times. It's routine, which children strive and thrive on. We currently are depriving our children of this. And let's also talk about the effects of virtual learning. Virtual education cannot and will not replace in-person education. It is an inadequate substitute, to be frank. While technology can connect us to the world, assist us in areas to be, While technology can connect us to the world and assist us in certain areas, it also hinders, it disconnects, and brings added stressors to the mix. We have seen more than frequently the problems with technology to make virtual work properly. We have seen children stressed over flawed virtual programs and technology. We have glitches aplenty, the inability to log in and submit work galore. The internet infrastructure within our town is down and out more than it can be marked present. Relying on all of this as our backup to true education is sometimes asinine and appalling. Children are falling behind or even missing from the academics here. Teachers and parents, we're doing our darndest to get these children to connect to the material that, unfortunately, sometimes is lost in the translation in virtual. It's a struggle within a struggle, a lose-lose situation, if you will. And the other side of the virtual education is the obstacle outside of technology itself. It's impossible to properly educate the special education community using these measures. We're doing a disservice to our special education students day in and day out the longer we utilize this structure. Honestly, it's a bit of a disservice to everyone, to our teachers, our special education community, the student body as a whole, but even the younger students. Their virtual education relies heavily on a parent or a caregiver to have the ability to do everything right alongside them. We're finding parents having to quit jobs, cut their hours in order to fill their child's educational needs, or sometimes pay someone to help when they have to make the choice between work or their children. In an economic climate that usually requires both parents to work within the family, our current schedule and constant changing with the lack of communication is only causing additional damage financially and to the family dynamic. Domestic violence and child abuse is on the rise during this pandemic. The added stress of childcare, lack of routine, schedule changes, lack of the ability to go to work all plays into that, and it's scary no matter which way you play it. I also want to say I do not approve of my child being used as what feels like a political pawn between the union and our district. Say what you will about that comment, but it's been made to seem that our children are exactly that, and my child and his education should not be a part of that chess game. For the record, I just want to state that us parents know that things can change and there are guidelines that come from higher ups that require us to do as they ask. We understand that this may become a moot point in a week or a day if we're ordered to shut down again. But what I need to make clear is that this school year, which happens to be the building blocks for my child's education, affects his future, not only academically, but as an adult.
I'm sorry, Ashley. 5 minutes, okay? So you
I
can
have one more
wrap it-
sentence,
okay,
I'm
thank you. Sorry, bad timing.
Not only for my child, but I'm sorry. For this, I need to advocate, not only for my child, but for all of us who are asking for just a little bit more. This is not a you versus us issue, it's a we issue. Thank you.
Justin, I have a letter from somebody. I don't know if I have to wait till open board, or if I can read it.
That would be during open board member forum.
Even though it's from a, okay.
Yeah, as a board member.
No, I just wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she couldn't make it, so.
I understand.
Yeah.
Are there any other members of the public?
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Lukasik. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And I'm a mother to 5 children, 4 of which are currently enrolled in the district. I'm active in the community, and school is the #1 topic of conversation every single place I go. The presidential election couldn't even compete with the amount of dialogue about school. The consensus is we need more in-person days, that even for the kids doing well, it isn't really successful. But I also hear a lot of sentiment that my kids are doing okay, so I'm not going to speak up. I'm friends with a lot of teachers, and I hear from them it's not ideal, but my kids are okay. What I want to know is, when did we become a community that only cares about our children, about our students? That's not Vernon. On the last district podcast and during the last board meeting, we heard some cold, hard, unsettling facts. Children are failing, kids are depressed, grades are down significantly, and kids are feeling isolated. These are our children, Vernon, our children. This should set up an alarm bell for everyone in this town, whether you're a parent, a taxpayer, a teacher, everyone. Online learning does not work for everyone, period. There are children that require in-person instruction to succeed, not want, not prefer, they require it. The children that suffer the most from our plan are the children with special needs, the children with IEPs, the children that don't have a stay-at-home mom to stay on top of them all day long, the children that don't have grandparents that can swoop in and teach while parents work, the children that have to navigate this alone because people have to work. None of us should turn a blind eye to this. With no COVID transmission in the schools, the fact that we have failed to take one single step forward with our reopening plan is a failure, a huge failure. The kids are wearing masks, keeping distance, they're doing everything asked of them, and still they've had every planned increase in school time taken away. Enough is enough. Today, 6 state governors came out with a joint statement saying kids do best in school. Even if transmission in the community is high, it can be done safely. Vernon does it safely. Nobody has more data or science, and I mean nobody has it at their disposal more than these state leaders. They've led the charge against COVID from the beginning. They're running the show. They get the data all day, every day. And as this statement goes on, they say not only do kids need to be in school, these governors state that the longer the children are out of school, the more damage done. And it's truly harder for them to learn. At every meeting, we hear from the union what they don't want to do, what they oppose. When do we hear what you will agree to? At the last meeting, a board member asked the union if the union had brought anything to the table, and it was like crickets chirping. We need transparency. The minutes from the reopening committee should be given to the town. Let us see for ourselves what's happening. I shouldn't have to search for it. Union statements should be put on their webpage. I want the facts. We all want the facts. If you continue to put politics ahead of the children of Vernon Township, then shame on you. You cannot continue to fail the most vulnerable children of this town. If you continue to block them from what they need to succeed, then you are creating inequality in our education. That has no place in this town. I'm telling you that when we come back, whether it be in December or in January, these children deserve at least 5 days in person. I and dozens of parents in this town are willing to fight for it. The gloves are coming off. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments?
Good evening. My name is Samantha Gascon. I'm from the Cedar Ridge section of Vernon. I am a parent of 3 children in the Vernon School District. I have a child in Cedar Mountain, Glen Meadow, and a high school. I wanted to speak up about this plan, if you can even call it that. It's not working. All of our children are so far behind where they should be after only having approximately 10 full days in school since March 16th. I understand there was no choice but to shut down back in March. Now our kids are doing everything they are supposed to. They want to get back into school for their education. School is essential for these kids to thrive, and they are not thriving. They are sad, they are bored, they are failing. They are missing out on furthering their education. Learning virtually is making my kids and so many others give up. They do not want to look at a computer all day with a couple Zooms and new materials to basically learn by themselves. I am not a teacher. I do not know how to teach my children something they do not understand while being patient and understanding. I love my kids, but this is not part of me raising my kids. If it was, I would have opted to homeschool my children. Last, all virtual learning, there were so many tears, so much failing, so many fights because virtual learning was not working. Our children need to be in class with their peers to learn and grow together. Being together pushes the kids and makes them better. Now they have a screen with some of their peers to discuss a lesson and then given a bunch of busy work. Our children deserve more time in school. We need to remember the focus of a school district is the children, period. We should not have to fight for them to get back in the school building. Do what's right and continue with the plan to reopen after winter break and step up to the plate. I will say it again, school is essential. Around the world, there is a heightened concern that the pandemic is doing lasting harm to the academic and emotional development of an entire generation of children. Our kids are so far from where they should be and continue to play catch up while given more and more work gets piled on them, basically told to figure it out. So they look up the answers on Google or wherever they need to, and all they have learned is to navigate their Chromebooks and cheat. I have one child involved in the VTSD, the high school cosmetology program. It was a fantastic program, and I cannot say enough good things about her teacher. She is given an impossible job right now. These kids need about 1,200 hours to graduate from this program with their license. This is over 3 to 4 years of regular school years, summer camp, camp on weekends to try and fit these hours in. Now my daughter gets about 2 hours of hands-on a week. She is so far behind in hours, and no amount of Zooms and paperwork is going to put these students where they need to be. This was a fantastic way for students to graduate doing what they love and not having to go to college or a trade school if they didn't want to or couldn't afford it. Now this has made these kids so far behind. Without in-person instruction, they are not going to be where they should be. I have a child diagnosed with a few different disorders, and it is very hard for him to learn. When he is virtual, he shuts down completely. He does not want to stare at a screen and navigate his classes. He tried and he failed, and now he will not put in the effort. It is hard for him to read and understand information. He has a very hard time with comprehension as it is, and instead of limited to language arts, this is now every subject for him. He tried, he failed, he gave up. His depression, his anxiety, ADHD, and ODD has now told him he is stupid and he believes it. No matter how much I help him and try and push him, I cannot get through. What does get through is that he is no good. He cannot do it. He doesn't want to try. Instead of being paired up with great teachers in school, he was home without anyone who got their education in helping kids like him. My son was so depressed all last virtual, he broke down. I don't mind he cried and yelled a little. With his diagnosis as they are, my son screamed and yelled and broke in front of me daily. He cried his heart out saying he was stupid, he didn't understand. He bottled up his hatred for not being in school and seeing his peers and getting help from his licensed teachers until it all came out as yelling, tears, hateful words, running away from the house, down the busy road with no shoes on, threats to kill himself because he wasn't good enough. I had multiple phone calls to the Vernon police crying, asking them for their help. There were 2 hospital evaluations in the middle of a pandemic. There was self-harm, all because he could not sit home learning through a computer. It isn't just my child whose depression has been heightened during this time. They need normalcy, they need their structure, they deserve to have in-person education. We as parents should not be made to feel like we are failing their kids. I'm not a perfect parent, and I cannot do it all. Our kids and us parents were promised to start getting the kids back in school on a regular basis, little by little. We were all patiently waiting as we waited with our masks, shields, sanitizers, social distancing. We are watching as all the steps forward promised to us are getting stripped away. Our kids are not spreading the virus in school. They are taking the precautions necessary. And if they pick up this virus outside of school hours, it is caught early and proper steps are taken to make sure it is not spread. The students or teachers are out of school for the quarantine period, and then they are back ready to work or learn. The kids and the parents have done everything asked of them, and they are being punished. In what world would you think many of our children would be jealous of other schools in our surrounding areas to go to school full days with their peers? They are sitting here thinking, why can our school not put us first? Why is our education not as important as these other kids? And I have to agree. Why is their education not a priority? Why is their in-person education not essential? Why is their mental health not at the top of the list? Our children should be made a priority. They should be given the opportunity to get back into schools full-time to begin to repair the damage last year and this year has done to them.
All right, I don't have a fancy statement. You could tell I really dressed up for this. I wasn't going to even show up. I just wanted to show up for some of the people who are speaking up for us working parents. My name is Kelly Stanziano. I have 2 kids in the district, one in Glen Meadow and one in Rolling Hills, a 6th and a 3rd grader. My husband and I have been at work from day one. We work split shifts. We don't get a break. A lot of people had the luxury of staying home in a pandemic, and I'm not jealous of that. I do wish I had gotten some time off, as I'm sure everyone would. But it's the jobs we chose, and it's the jobs you depend on in these times, okay? And that's fair. It's a fair exchange. The issue I have is my kids are failing. I have 2 choices. I can either spend what minimal time I have at home alone trying to educate 2 children, or I can spend the 2 hours a night I have with them. I understand completely. I get it. Teachers are in a really bad spot right now. You're in a really bad spot right now. I'm in a really bad spot right now. We all are. That's the one thing everyone seems to agree on here, is there is no easy answer. So what I am asking you to do, for at least me, for people like me and my kids, if you can go back to that pass-fail option, it gives me a shot. My kids are failing. I get emails from their amazing teachers all the time. They are absolutely wonderful. They are doing everything they can. You can't grade work you don't have. I can't get work done for time I don't have. I am not giving up my time with my children to teach them things that they would learn in school. I can't. I have to pick. So I'm asking you guys to consider, no matter what you decide to do, please stop grading my children so harshly in a time that's terrifying for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Jennifer Remington, and I live in the Highland Lakes area of Vernon. And I just want to say, I know this is very difficult for everybody. I don't have a fancy statement either. But I said I was going to come and show support for the parents out there, the teachers, everybody that is making these choices. We understand where everybody's coming from. We want to keep everybody safe. But not all kids learn the same way. I have 3 kids in the district, one at Lounsbury, one at Glen Meadow, and one at Rolling Hills. All 3 of them learn differently. My 4th grader is having a horrible time this year. He's stressed. He's crying over work. Last year, he was a straight A student. This year, he's not. He's having a really hard time. We can't figure out why. We're working with the teachers. We're talking to them. They're talking to us. They're doing Zooms. They're doing their best. But the kids need to be in school. I understand that it's a safety issue. But there are other districts that are doing it 5 days, half days. Why can't we look at that option? I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I'm fine with them being home, but we do have working parents in the community that need their kids in school so they could put that food on the table for their families by going to work. So please, if we could look at that option of doing 5 half days, that's all I'm asking for. So my kids have a little bit of normalcy of seeing their teachers and being with their friends and being able to socialize. We do let them socialize with their friends. They're playing sports, they're seeing their friends in the neighborhood, but it's not the same as being in school and learning from the teachers. I can't teach Common Core. They're learning the work the way I learned it. So when they go back, they're going to be completely lost. These kids lost out last year from not learning everything they needed to know, and now a lot of the teachers think they learned that stuff, and they didn't. I'm hearing from my kids, we weren't taught that last year. I don't know how to do this. So we're trying to teach them at home, and we're doing our best. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I hate candy corn too. Who likes it? I don't know.
Good evening. Martin O'Donnell. And I don't remember your name, but she had said something that really resonated with me, then she's probably the only person in the last number of weeks to mention it. When we learn, we borrow some information and we retain some information. We tend to borrow more than we retain. I think that coming in the future, we're going to have a really big problem because our kids are borrowing more and retaining less. And in fact, like she had said, many of the kids are on quizzes and tests. They're going up on the internet, finding the answers, answering them. I've seen it in my own kids, okay? The children aren't learning what they should learn. Okay, they're learning how to look it up and get by, which is going to create a huge problem 6 months from now, next year, as they continue on with their education, because they need to know the material that they're learning now in order to succeed in those future classes. In particular, math, where it's an area where I tutor kids. And I've seen this in many kids in the school district as I try to help them, that they just don't get it, okay? And this is a tough situation, and I don't envy anybody, and I'm going to be on that side of the table in about a month, so I don't envy myself, I guess. But I think that we have to take a good look at data when we make our decisions, and don't make our decisions based on fear or based on opinions. I think we really need to look at the data out there when we make these decisions. And I think, again, like one of the other ladies had said that was up here, the most important part of this whole thing is our kids. All right, we want to keep everybody safe, yes, but we do have to keep our kids in mind here. And I think that, I hope to God, in future years, that colleges just take SAT scores and things like that and throw them out, because these kids are going to suffer during that time when they go to college. So, thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, we will close it to the public at this time.
Justin, are we able to speak to some of the comments that the community has brought to us?
Well, we are going into the superintendent's report, so I think there's an opportunity for us to ask the superintendent some questions and get into conversation during that time.
I just think that they made the effort to come out here,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think they deserve our comments on some of the items.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
So,
I agree.
okay.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. Can you turn up our? Yeah.
We'll turn the mics up.
Yeah.
Yes. So before the superintendent's report, then, I will add an item to the agenda to discuss the comments.
I would just like to discuss,
Sure.
it takes a lot of effort to come on out and to get up there. It's very difficult to speak. And I think that we owe it to them to talk about some of the subject matter.
To what? I couldn't even hear that last part, Kelly. I'm sorry.
I think we owe it to our community to talk about some of the subject matter that they brought up you know, because it is very difficult to come up here and to speak, and I just, you know, if it was me, I would want to have some questions answered.
Okay, so we can open it up to board discussion at this time. We can add a second open board member forum before the superintendent's report. Jen, if you wanted to share your comments, that would probably be an appropriate time as well, but Kelly, it was your suggestion, so I'll give you the floor.
Well, there's just a couple of things. I want to bring up the pass-fail that I brought up last meeting. You know, I don't understand why we can't do that. I'd like to have some answers on that. I think that would alleviate a lot of stress and anxiety for families at this time. That's number one. I'd like to know that.
Great. I can approach that answer. Many of our staff felt that it was very important to give grades this time through because they were concerned about trying to make sure that our students were coming to the lessons and making sure that they were part of the Zoom. In particular, our older students on the high school level, and making sure that grades were given as a reward for work in class. And they were very adamant about giving grades this first marking period to see where we were. I know that we did the pass-fail, and that was an initiative that we put forward last spring. You know that.
Yes.
And it was because this is the first time that we had gone through that. We were worried about virtual connections. We were worried about whether the students had all that they needed in order to be successful. I think what many of our folks felt was the fact that the pass-fail, while a wonderful idea, guaranteed that some students weren't going to take part as much in the process of learning. And they were worried about the same things that parents are talking about right now, which is that lack of learning that could happen. So, I mean, there is, for many of us, a need to be rewarded for the hard work that we do. And I think that our students were being rewarded by their grades. And I know that some people feel that they're being punished by their grades, but there's many other students that feel that if they do the work, they deserve the grade.
Well, could we put a component in where it's a personal choice, where a student might feel that, yes, they want the grades. If they're going to college, they want those grades.
Yes.
But other students might feel that, you know, they just need to tread water at this time because that's what's going to get them through.
Right.
So I just feel that if we put that component in, it satisfies everything, right? It satisfies the people that need the pass-fail just to survive right now.
Yes.
And then it also satisfies the people that need the grades for whatever their, future plans are.
Right.
I just ask that we do that because I do think that is going to help with mental health, and I think that it's a very simple factor that we can do. That's my thought process on it. Any other board members?
I would agree, and you could even say there could be so many classes where you choose pass-fail. Maybe you can't do it across the board, but maybe at least, choose 3 classes, 4 classes to choose a pass-fail option. I know that's what, at the collegiate level, they've done before. You can choose up to 3 classes where you have a pass-fail, and others may not choose any pass-fail because they want the grades, they want the reward. But I do think if we can make this more personal, because everyone's dealing with a different issue, different problems, I think the more personal we can make it, the better it would be.
Yeah, I agree. There's some incredible, well, Chuck, Dr. McKay, did you have a chance to look at the failure rate?
Yes, I have the data.
Yeah. So we were, I was asking about failure rates for the first marking period.
Yeah, I have the first bulk data on how the students did. Yeah, sure.
I'll pass it out so you can be on the microphone, just so that everybody can hear. We did not coordinate.
So Mrs. Pellet asked me to put the data together, and of course, we just got it. So what I did was, first of all, I want to thank Jen Shearhall for helping me all day today to get some of this together, and also our administrators in the high school, Glen Meadow and Lounsbury. So we put together rough data. And what I did was I wanted to compare the first marking period of 1920 to the marking period, the first marking period of 2021, to sort of compare, if you will, apples to apples, in the sense that what was it like when they were in class, and then what is it like when they're either hybrid or virtual. I don't have enough breakdown data in order to really get, I mean, you know, this is just basic data, but what I did was I put the amount of students that we had who earned A's in their classes, and I had each one, like, so picture a high school that has 967 students, each one of them taking approximately 7 classes. And how many opportunities that would be for them to earn an A would be basically 3,232 possibilities to earn an A for 806 students. That's how many earned an A. But when you get to the numbers at the bottom, so just to give you some rough numbers, the difference between the marking period 1 for the high school students is significant when you look at how many students got C's, D's, and F's.
So that red plus is, so plus.
That's the difference.
So when you look at the right side, you'll see the numbers. So for example, in 2019, 2020, in the first marking period, 883 students at the high school earned 3,379 A's in 3,379 courses. This year, in the first marking period, 806 students, even though there's 10 more students in the high school, earned 3,232 A's.
So we added 540 Fs this marking period.
From last year, yeah.
This isn't the same cohorts though, right? You're
Correct.
comparing 9-12 last year to
Yeah.
9-12 this year.
Absolutely. So there's all sorts of issues with the data because we're doing the best we can with rough data. I don't have 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12. There just wasn't enough time to
But
put...
we did still add another 540 Fs.
That's still huge.
That's significant.
At the
Yeah, our
high
A's and B's
school-
are down and our F's and D's are up. That's really the gist of it, right? I mean, it's
That's
significantly.
the gist of it, yeah.
Right, so the situation is that it's a different cohort because 9 to 12 last year would have been our 8th graders moving to 9th grade, and of course the 12th graders have graduated out of that cohort. So again, it's imperfect because there wasn't enough time. I mean, it takes a long time to put that kind of data together. But I thought, considering that grades were just posted, I would do this so that you had an understanding of where we sit.
It might be imperfect, but it's obvious.
Yeah,
I
think
it
it's.
might be imperfect, Chuck, but it's obvious
Yeah,
that this
well,
hybrid
and
learning
I just wanna,
and virtual learning is.
And I just want to pause in the conversation and just state the obvious, even though I think we're all very much aware of this, that this trend in the grades, seeing more failures, less students passing, is absolutely not a reflection on our students, and it is absolutely not a reflection on our faculty and teachers, that they are all working very hard under very trying circumstances. It's a reflection of the circumstances we're in. So I just wanted to state the obvious there, just to
Right,
make
but
sure.
as,
Yes,
as
it's
we talk
situational.
about,
Absolutely.
as we talk about reflection,
Right.
then if we're reflecting, this is a great argument for a pass-fail.
Sure,
Right.
sure. And
I
just
think this
before
is
going
a-
into the conversation,
Yeah.
I wanted to highlight that point.
I
Okay, but
think this is
I
a
would
great
add a
argument for
cautionary
more
note to
in-class
that.
instruction. This
sorry?
is, you know, it's
Oh, I would love in-class
pass-fail is a
instruction,
Band-Aid.
yes,
This is a
absolutely.
great argument for more in-person instruction.
Yes.
That's what this is right here.
Well,
And,
that-
you know, what
yeah.
every parent who knows, you know, that we've heard and that we've all said, this,
I think we're all of the same mind, though, that in-person instruction is without a doubt, a better model. I mean, that's never been something that no one here thinks that virtual is better. Nobody thinks that. So yeah, we need to work toward that. But we do also have virtual. So, and as I've mentioned several times, 33% of our kids are virtual. So we do have to worry about this number, whether or not we get back to full instruction. The pass-fail question that we were talking about before, I think I agree with Mark. I think it was Mark who said that it should be maybe optional, though, because we do have kids who are, I think
Well,
some
it would
families
have
might
that
prefer.
option component.
Last year
you
was
know.
optional.
Yeah, I just
We
would-
did that last year.
Right,
student
it
could
was
decide.
optional, right?
Yeah. And so, I mean, I don't understand our trepidation on that. You had said that the staff feels that way, but I just think that we need to give our families a break, and it wouldn't be everybody. It would be who opted in and out. I mean, like, I just don't see where that's a big deal.
I have a thought. I'm not sure what we're capable of doing. Many colleges and universities have the pass-fail option.
Yeah.
In my current program, we have a pass-fail option, and the benefit is that if a student chooses to select pass-fail, the teacher doesn't necessarily see that the child has selected pass-fail. So the teacher is still grading the child as per their output or their productivity or their assignments. But whatever the algorithm is on the back end, I don't know what it is, and I don't know if we have the capability to do that. Perhaps we don't. I guess the benefit in that model is that it protects the integrity of both sides, right? The child who needs...
But only for one marking period.
I'm sorry?
It only protects it for one marking period.
Well, that depends on the model. I'm not proposing a model, I'm just making a statement about what some colleges and universities are doing. So mine happens to work on semester basis, so we can choose per semester. But every model is a little...
Well, we could take it one step at a time. We could just do this semester and then, you know.
Yeah, I mean, my point is that, to try to preserve the integrity of both sides. My point is that I hear what Dr. McKay is saying, and that I think teachers, and I don't want to speak for them, but in the spring, we're struggling to engage children, and the spring was a huge challenge for everybody. And I think that they probably felt that having authentic grades as much as possible would perhaps motivate or engage students in the content. Children were feeling frustrated. Parents were feeling frustrated, as we still are. So the point in the model that I'm proposing, if we go in this direction, teachers are still grading children the way they would grade them, but children are receiving a pass-fail as opposed to a letter grade on the report card. I don't know that we have the capability to do something like that.
Right,
So-
but we are concerned at the high school level on credit.
Of
Right.
course.
So we're concerned on credit.
Yeah, that's a
And then the
valid
other
point.
concern is that now you have 540 more F grades that are going to show up on college
Transcripts,
applications, on, transcripts when you're going for a job, whatever it might be.
Right.
And that staying with the student is concerning when it's a circumstance that they can't help being in.
So on the high school level and on the middle school level, the first grade that's a failure is a 55 for that reason, because we don't want it to drop their grade so much so that there's no motivation for the rest of the year.
Right.
Yeah, but
But
why
that's-
wasn't it, I always wondered, why wasn't it 65? Like, why did we drop for the F 10 points? Because that kills their GPAs.
Right, and you're thinking that 10 points over the next 3 marking periods would be...
No, I'm just thinking if, like, when the pass-fail came out last year, because I had asked for it based upon law schools. That was the justification that I used, because numerous prestigious law schools were moving to a pass-fail. So then the board and the administration put a pass-fail in, but the thing I never understood is why was the failure a 55? Why couldn't the failure be, so let's say 64?
Right.
Because when you're adding up a student's GPA in high school,
Right.
a 55, now granted, let's say the student had a 35, okay? So let's say they got 10 points. But even if a student, like, it's still bringing them down 9 points. It would still tank their GPA. So
Well, yeah.
that,
Sorry,
so-
what we did last year, Teresa, was we were concerned about that, and we upped it. But what I'm saying is that
I'm sorry,
in
you
the
upped
spring,
what?
we did not have the 55 that we have set in the high school. We said with the pass-fail last year, we had a 70 mark. I don't know if you remember when we...
Yeah.
when
Oh, I
we
remember it vividly, that's why I'm
We
asking.
calibrated it that way, and then anything above that, if the student chose that grade,
Then they
they could
would
keep
get the
that
grade.
grade. Okay. The 55 that I'm establishing, that I'm talking about, is what has been established as past practice. You're right, that can be taken a look at. That can
Yeah,
be
because
looked at.
that was punitive.
Yes, when you start to talk about the idea of an option on pass-fail. The piece that's important is GPA for the student who is the achiever.
Okay, but let's backtrack
And then-
on the
okay.
achievers. That's a small group of students. So I just want to point that out, because
I
last
know,
year
I
that was
know.
a justification too. So we can't do that to every high school kid to meet the achievers.
Right.
And that last year was told we were about the achievers, so I'm sorry, continue. I just wanted to point that out.
Can I ask you a question before you go on? Does a pass-fail at the end of the year, do we have to convert it to a number grade? Or can it be left out of the GPA calculation entirely?
Well,
Because
that-
once you start converting it to a number grade,
No, there's no PNFs, they put numbers on.
right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they
You know,
put
can-
numbers on.
Do we have to do that?
Well, when you're talking about an option like Mr. Chili is talking about, and where the student can opt out of 3 grades,
right,
then what you would establish to any college that the child was applying to, or any trade school that they're applying to, was there were optional Ps for passing.
Right.
And that's not part of their GPA.
Right.
Not to talk too much about the achievers again,
So-
but that will become a point of consternation later on. A couple years from now, when they're graduating,
Yeah.
that
Right.
will be a
But my
piece.
question
That
is,
will be a
so
piece of this.
in the spring, if a student opted for pass or fail, at the end of the year, that P or an F was converted to a number. It was either 70 or 55, whatever the number was.
Yeah, but-
Do we have to do that?
I don't think you can. How can you take a P and convert it into a?
Well, we did. It went in as a 70.
But you can, no,
Really?
you can, we can pull it out.
But
of
it did though, right?
We can pull it out of the calculation. But it's just that there's some real ramifications.
But that's how it
upon
worked in the spring, right?
Yes, in the spring,
Right.
it was a 70 or the grade that they wanted. So it was this choice process, right? So
Right.
the student
Right, so-
achieved, they got an 88, they said, I want that grade.
So it was not a true pass-fail.
It was a safeguard against.
Sure. No, I'm just saying that if we're entertaining doing this again,
Does it have to be that
do we
way?
have to do it that way, or can
No.
we improve on it? Yeah.
No.
Not,
No.
not during this time, but there's a second public comment section at the end.
And
Well,
I would be
can
glad
I
to
ask-
answer anything if
I want
anybody
to
wants
ask a
to.
question, because this might shape that conversation. Because I'm sitting here and I'm hearing, I heard, and thank you to the parent who brought up the pass-fail, that was very helpful, thank you. This takes me to, from an educational standpoint, you know, I'm hearing grades being used as rewards. So what is the philosophy of this board and administration? What are grades, what are our philosophy for grades? Are our philosophy of grades rewards? Or is our philosophy a reflection of a student's knowledge base? Those are two very different things. So which one is it? If we're rewarding students, then what is the reliability and validity of the student's grades for a reward versus what is the reliability and validity for a reflection of knowledge?
Well, for me, it's,
So that's, are you,
yeah.
I'm sorry. is that you?
No, I was going
Oh.
to say, I think it's about driving student achievement. And so for some, striving for that A helps drive that achievement. For others, if the stress of the grade, especially at a time like this, could detract student achievement. So that's where maybe a pass-fail would help that
I'm
student
all for
achievement.
pass-fail.
The pass-fail will alleviate that
I
because
completely
if they
agree.
feel like they're failing, they're just going to give up, and then
Oh.
they're just going to shut down.
I know, I'm
So why
all
would we
for
do that to that
pass-fail.
student?
But I
Yeah.
think to, like Mr. Annunziata was just saying, building on what we had last year, there's two different philosophies. Well, there's a lot of philosophies on grading, but I'm hearing rewards, but then is it a reflection of knowledge? Like, those are two very different things. So how are grades in our school district used? Because I just added them up. First of all, I just have to
I don't think
backtrack.
it's that simple, though. I don't think it's choice A or choice B. I think there's, I mean, you
I
could
think
probably
that's
go
not-
around the table.
yeah.
and-
I think it's a reflection of knowledge because you earn your grade. I mean, teachers don't just hand out grades. You know, a student earns their grade. I think internally, a student
It would be a
would
reward.
see it as a reward.
I think,
But it's
would-
not
I
that
think
the
that
But then
teachers
I'm
are
looking at
using it as a reward.
1,049 more Fs than last year. I just added it up. You know, I feel for the high schoolers because they do, their futures, but I went and I turned the page. We have 4th and 5th graders. 188 Fs. We're failing 4th and 5th graders to that level?
Yeah, and we're
I
getting
mean,
we're
what
getting
are
into
we
the
doing
weeds
to
of
these babies? High schoolers, don't get me wrong, I completely agree. That's a whole different ballgame, middle school. But when I turned the page and I saw the number of Fs we have in Lounsbury Hollow, I mean, talk about crushing a child's, like feeling for themselves and wanting to do better. In Glen Meadow. Then we have our students in Glen Meadow with plus 321 Fs. And now, these are the kids now we want to bring up to our high school, and then these high schoolers, whether they're going to work, whether they're going to a tech school, whether they're going into the military, whether they're going to college, these are adversely affecting our kids, like seriously adversing. So I think as a board and an administration, we need to take a step back and hone our pass-fail to meet the needs of our students, to build on it, like you were saying, from last year.
If I could add just one thing too, I think it's the bigger problem. I mean, the grades is one thing, but the bigger problem is the learning. Whether it's a P or an F, it's still, this is the level we're achieving. And so to the argument that we heard tonight, and honestly, I did the math, the hybrid really isn't more successful than the virtual. It's about 30% failure rate
Don't forget,
for
it's
each.
fewer kids. Did you do
No, I
it?
did.
Remember, you're
wanted-
doubling your hybrid, right?
You did.
Okay,
You did.
your student.
I did it off the percentage. You said how many hybrids?
So
right?
what is the
So percentage-wise, it's 30%, so at the high school, 30% hybrid were failing and 31% virtual.
Okay.
In Glen Meadow, it's 28% hybrid, 33% virtual. Where there is a difference where you would think it would be at the lower grade, it's 28% virtual, 16.9% hybrid. But I do think, so the bigger underlying issue here and the foundational issue is getting them back to in-person instruction.
Yeah, well, I think definitely the main thing is they're not learning, right? I mean, that's what the grades is, yes, obviously this is very disheartening for kids and we need to figure something out with that, but more importantly, we're not, they're not, as people said, they're not learning. And that's, achievement is huge.
Yeah.
So, we need to improve. And yeah.
So, I mean, the pass-fail right now would give us just a little bit of relief, and then we could,
It would give
focus
some
on-
students some relief, but it's not going to improve their learning.
Right.
No,
It's not going to
I'm
improve
not-
their
I'm just
instruction
saying,
at all.
just let's have the piece that's the relief, and let's work on what we can do for in-person learning. I mean, what can we do?
What can we
to
do
get
is
to
we
that
can go
point.
back to what we said we were going to do and have 4 days a week.
Right, but,
I know, but now
Really
we are in orange.
and we're going
so-
towards red.
Yeah.
And by
So,
the
I
way,
mean-
in order, don't forget this, I mean, I know I keep saying it, but in order for us to do in person, we need those virtual kids, those 33%. So we need to fix this anyway for them too. I mean, they're going to stay virtual. So, and that enables the in-person people to be in the school safely. So we need to work on both things. In-person alone isn't the
Right.
Right.
So I
end-all
think
and
that
be-all.
I think we need to make it into small compartments and work on it in those small compartments. But why don't we have an answer on the pass-fail so we could get off of that piece, and then we can move on to the in-person plan. We can talk about what we're seeing in the next couple of weeks with the increase of COVID and the orange, that whole thing.
Yeah.
We could talk about that. And then we could talk about when we're going to circle back and add to our in-person.
I'd just like to, I know that this is the opposite of what I said before about giving relief, but I am a little concerned about pass-fail and robbing some kids of motivation, because I know my kids will be like, oh,
Well, it's going to be an opt-in.
It's opt-in.
It's going to
Well,
be
the
opt-in.
parents-
possibly.
The parents will have
And I
to
know
So
that-
you as a
choose it.
parent could say, no, I'm not doing that with my children.
yeah, but a lot of, we're going to put
But
some parents in
a
a
lot of
bad
us
situation there.
So I want to go to the administration for a moment, because we provided a lot of feedback and thoughts on the matter. So I'd like to turn it over to you both to provide your thoughts.
When you're talking to your staff is going to say one of the key motivational factors for student success is grades. That the older they get, it's going to be grades.
Sure.
If we start to talk about diminishing that or changing that, there is some concern. I think one of the most important points that was raised by Mr. O'Donnell was retention versus borrowing.
Right.
And the simple point is that we're in a new age in which a lot of things are borrowed, not by a lot, but just, there's a sense of expedience. Here's the assignment, here's the video from the teacher. I'm not going to look at any of that. What do they want me to do? I need to do these 3 problems. Okay, I'm going to find a place where I can find how to do that, or an answer, I'm going to slot and fill, and then I'm going to say that I'm finished with it. That is what I think, Mr. O'Donnell, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that's what you mean by borrowing, as opposed to learning.
I guess
I
sorry.
just want to finish. So I am concerned beyond the motivation of a grade of what the process looks like. I know that our teachers are doing, and I think many of our parents feel the same way, our teachers and our parents are doing more work than that they have ever done because of this terrible situation.
Hey, Chuck, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No,
How many teachers do you think are black and white when it comes to grades, and how many are gray?
And how many are what?
Gray. Okay, because I think that's part of the issue that's going on also, is that if teachers are, if the teacher knows the kid's putting in the effort, I use the analogy when I was in college, if you go to class every day, you're probably going to get a C no matter what.
Yes.
So is that what our teachers are leaning towards, or are they going strictly by what's in the grade book?
I believe that our teachers are giving every possible option
I
to the
agree.
students.
Yeah.
I think that there are
they're
many
trying.
incompletes
Yeah.
in which teachers have been waiting for work to get handed in. But I'm not here to diminish what our parents are saying.
Right.
What they're saying is our children are shutting down. That's
I
it.
totally get that.
And
But
I mean,
That's it.
there's nothing worse in this world than having your child shut down, and there's nothing you can do.
Right, and-
It's awful.
Right.
So I think that this pass-fail is an olive branch.
But what I don't understand though is if you're going to go to a pass-fail, if a kid is going to fail in that, they're going to fail under the grades.
Right.
So what?
Yeah.
They're the ones that are hurting, right? They're the ones that aren't going to get that pass anyway because of
they were
whatever the
failing
reason
anyway.
may be.
Yeah.
I disagree
So
with
what-
you on that, Brad.
But
You think this number will change though, Kelly? It's failure.
I
so-
think it
I mean,
will
an F's
help.
an F, whether.
No, I disagree with you, because think about if you had a due date on something, and somebody gave you a little extra time on that due date.
But that's my
But
point.
They
But
are.
that's
But they
exactly what
are.
I'm
They
saying.
are.
They are giving them
I'm
extra
just
time.
trying to give
Every
it.
teacher
Yeah,
is.
I guess I would say that
It takes the pressure off, and then you're able to achieve a little bit more.
I think what both of you are saying is right. I think, and what Chuck said, I think that our teachers are giving our students every opportunity
Right.
to succeed.
I'm
But I
not
also,
saying
and
they're not.
I know, and I think that you're also right that there are students who are struggling anyway. And because a student, let's say a fourth grader, doesn't have their parents at home to help them, and they're not submitting assignments, so those are going to go in as an incomplete. You know, as a teacher could be as lenient with due dates as they want. Should that be a reflection on that student in the circumstances we're in?
Right.
Right. And that's where the option of pass-fail, at least it might not help every student, but it could be a life raft to some.
But how is that a life raft?
But they would
If he
still
still hasn't done the
fail.
assignment, it's still going to be an F. It's not going to be a
Right,
pass.
it's
but
not
maybe they'll
as
get
cut
5
and
or
dry
6.
as doing assignments.
I can't have
There's
6 people
minimal
talking at once.
instruction at times. Kids are not sitting there being instructed, they're watching videos, they're watching it on their class, it's not a normal educational situation that you
realize
would
that.
say you didn't just hand it in. So if the student is passing and they're in the pass-fail, which make it optional, so the high achievers can strive for their A's, the kids struggling can have that life raft, and that way, parents who work and everybody who has to juggle, you put it in place. If a parent doesn't want it for their child, say no.
And so be it.
So if they get a pass, what's the difference between getting a pass and getting a C? I think the problem is everybody's putting too much emphasis on the A, B, C, D, E, F, rather than, you know what, if my kid used to be a B student, and this is happening right now to me with one in college who is struggling a little bit as well. You know what? Before all this started, she was a B student all the way through. We're not hounding her about grades right now. We understand that she's going to struggle in this point in time. And I think I said it last week. We have lowered our expectations. And I think maybe sometimes as parents and as a society, we cannot have expectations up here when the environment is providing it down here.
Right, but Brad, is she failing all her classes? We have
No,
kids
but
failing
she
classes.
was, but
There's
again,
a big
Teresa,
difference between a college kid who's 18 and a parent saying, honey, it's okay if you don't get a B, we'll accept a C, maybe even a D. But we're talking about students. Parents stood up and said their children are having meltdowns. They had a contact with
I
police.
understand that, but again, if they're going to get, if they're having a meltdown and they're getting an F, they're still going to get an F. It doesn't correct that. It doesn't correct that. That's my point.
It might
He's saying they'll still fail.
It might alleviate that anxiety, and it might bring them to a little bit of a higher level. That's what it'll do. I'm telling you,
I
that's
think
what it'll do.
there's a large degree of subjectivity in pass-fail, right? So if there's 10 assignments and a student who you know is struggling gets 6 of those in, while traditionally that might be a failing grade for the marking period, but you know that they worked their hardest and they got those assignments in, you might pass.
But that's
that
what I'm
student.
saying. They'll put that subjectivity into the ABC. That's what I'm
Right,
saying.
right.
I'm not saying don't. And I mean, I think I prefaced that with
And I
are
fully
teachers
believe-
being subjective when they're grading, or are they being black and
No,
white?
no. I fully believe that they are giving students every option. Again, I will say that. I want to say that publicly. They're giving them every option. I've seen teachers wait for weeks for work to be handed in. My
Well, so then
concern
what-
is that it's not being done because the child has, for whatever, the proper term, shut down.
I think that's the real issue here. I mean, the grades are one thing, but we have to figure out how to get these kids back, and what we need to offer them.
The only way to get our kids back is to have them in school. And the challenge is COVID right now. And I know there's a lot that people want to talk about, but virtual learning was not created as a substitute for teaching. And unfortunately, that's the situation we've all been forced into. Schools have existed for centuries and created so that children can learn from teachers and from each other. The only way that the whole thing improves and kids don't shut down is they're back with us.
So I understand that. I understand that. We keep talking about that. I understand that that is the best way, but I don't agree that we can't improve on this. And we have to. I mean, the reality is, we would love to be in person with everybody, but we can't. So when we can't, we have to figure out a way to address this. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, obviously. We can't get it as good as in person, but we can't just go, oh, it's not possible, so gee darn, these kids are just going to fail, so let's get them a pass fail.
No, we're not throwing up our hands. I
mean, they're not learning. They're not learning.
Right, and to back up what Jen's saying, you're saying it's not meant to be that way. Obviously. I mean, it's not meant to be that way, but it is that way. It is that way. I mean, we have no choice. We have families who have, medically compromised people who live with grandparents. Fill in the blank. There's a million different individual reasons that parents make this decision. And according to the governor and the state, they have every single right to make that decision.
Absolutely.
And the fact that we, as a district, we are coming up on Thanksgiving, and we have not perfected virtual learning, I find this mind-blowing. The fact that our virtual learners, yes, it wasn't meant to be that way. It was not. But it is, and it's Thanksgiving, and why aren't our virtual learners getting the same quality education that students face-to-face are? I still can't wrap my brain around why that isn't happening, and why there isn't consistency amongst schools, why there isn't systems in place of constant, easy-to-read communication and to the parents, and that way it would just be going smoother. I'm really trying to understand this. I respect our teachers to no end, beyond belief. I respect the families. I respect students. But I'm wondering why at Thanksgiving the details have not been ironed out yet. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Why aren't our virtual learners receiving a comparable education to the students who are hybrid?
And then
I'm
when we
still
do
asking
have to
this
go
question.
and then when we do have to go virtual, then everyone will have a better experience when that's
Right,
necessary.
then it'll just go
Not that we
smooth into
want to do
whatever.
it, but when we have to, at least everybody will have something better. It won't be perfect, but it would be better.
I mean, what is it? Do we need technology? Do you need training? What specifically is needed? I'm not part of the reopening committee. I don't know. But what is needed to iron out these details so that way it's smooth?
You need virtual teachers teaching virtual students like we have on the elementary level.
Right, but 6 to 12.
Well, see, okay, but
I think, is that what you're saying, that that's the solution you would need?
Well, every school system in the state of New Jersey is looking for another 25 teachers to teach the virtual students. And instead, what we have is a certification problem and a huge money problem. And the truth of the matter is, we set up a system, K through 6, in which a teacher is teaching virtually. The concerns that are coming to us about the virtual education is K through 5 is primarily 6 through 12. And we are working with our teachers and expressing to them how important our virtual students are and how important it is to reach out to them and how important office hours are. But what we're getting back from our teachers, at least on some levels, is they set up office hours and students aren't coming. But that's natural.
Right, but let's backtrack. Let's backtrack. Something that a big part that wasn't looked at, the majority of office hours in the high school, I can't speak for Glen Meadow, were in the middle of the day. When were sports and clubs and activities being run? During office hours. And with utmost respect to the teachers in the contract, they are under no obligation to have office hours beyond in the afternoon, the evening, whatever. Those teachers who did it, I mean, that's amazing. God bless them. They did what they had to do. But teachers also work under a contract that they're not obligated to go outside of contractual hours. So if the whole first marking period, the whole fall, if office hours, the vast majority of them, and I'm just going to say grades 6 to 12 because I'm putting them all together, are taking place when sports, clubs, activities are taking place, and a teacher, now you have students who are missing that. That was a huge component. Why? Like, that's another big piece of it.
And we talked to our staff about adjusting that to 1 o'clock before the 2 o'clock. We've talked
But sports went like 12 to 3.
We
Those
also,
kids would not
probably
attend any of
realistically,
that.
the kids that are involved and plugged in like that, are they the ones that are struggling as much?
No.
I'm sorry, I
No.
can't hear you, Natalie.
Also, I said realistically, the kids that are plugged in with clubs and sports, they're probably not the same group of kids that are struggling that much, and I think Chuck just agreed.
How would you know that the kids doing extracurricular activities in sports
I think
are
it's a
struggling?
different, well, we're talking about mentally, and they feel like they're drowning. They're plugged in, they're interacting with their friends.
So
I think a lot of-
interaction does not get them Fs?
No, I'm not saying that, no, I'm not saying it's completely, I'm not saying that's completely the case. I'm thinking about kids that are disconnected and feeling and having these breakdowns and feeling emotionally distant and really.
Okay.
So
But that's
they're
different from getting
connected.
Fs.
You know,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
connected and they're more open to that interaction. But there's a whole element of kids that aren't plugged in like that.
I think
they don't have that outlet.
Sorry.
Right.
I think one of the problems with the class hours, and I give credit to the teachers for having them, but the reason the kids aren't going, it's like everything else with virtual. It puts all the pressure on the kid to reach out, to be proactive, and that's not really what school, the thing about in-person school, one of the things that's so great about it is your kid's there and the teacher's there, and so
Yes.
they're going to see your kid struggling.
Yes.
If you're home struggling and you're 14 or 12 or 10, I don't know if you're going to call into a Zoom to tell your teacher about it. I just, my kids don't. I know that. I don't know if they're unusual or not, but it's
No,
just
I think that's
pressure
typical.
on the kids to be aggressive about their academic, life, and they're just not at the age for that. It's like college. We're telling them to act like college students, and they're not. They're 12, 13.
We did see a lot more attention and a lot more attendance in the last week of the marking period when they were concerned.
That's probably always though, right?
After
I
the
don't know how
marking
that's
period?
any different from anything else that we've ever been.
I better hurry
Yeah.
up and get this.
I think we also saw an increase in engagement when we introduced synchronous as an
Yes.
option. Not that it solved problems, but we did see an increase in student engagement and students participating. But you're not wrong. I mean, children, even in traditional times before COVID, they're not the kid, on the way out of the classroom, I'm not stopping to ask Dr. McKay a question before I leave. I just want to scooch out,
Yeah.
And the teacher's the one who says, hey, Karen, before you go,
Yeah, can I talk to you for a minute?
Can I talk to you for a minute? So that's the piece that we're missing,
Right,
right?
missing that,
Yeah.
that sight of, and seeing your kid, the kids spacing out. Like on the Zoom call, the teacher's teaching to whoever's in the room, and if someone's spacing out on their computer, she's maybe not going to see that face go blank, or he won't see that face go blank. I don't know. I just think we're missing that direct engagement that teachers can see what's happening to these kids. Is there some way we can and maybe you do this automatically, I don't know, but proactively reach out to now that we have the grades for the first marking period, can we work with these families like in a proactive way? I mean,
Yeah, I don't want to, I would never put those names out publicly.
No.
But what we're going to do now is with these numbers, go to the guidance folks and start the discussion with them and the teachers as well to create plans of outreach, because as you said, Mark, it's 30% on either side. So we've got to reach out to both. Obviously, the numbers are a shot across the bow, and we're very concerned about them. And I want to get these out as quickly as possible, so I don't have all, I want to get into this data and see where we are. Was it one student failing 7 classes, or was it 7 students failing 1 class? If you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right? All right. So then we're in a very, very different ballgame.
Yeah.
Because
that's true.
if it's 14 students who have failed everything, then, okay, so that's a cohort that we have to go work with, because, and you're talking about well visits, you're talking about outreach.
Additional support, interventions,
Right.
yeah.
But if it's a different situation where it's 70 students and each have failed 1 class, then two things. I got to figure
wait a
out where
minute.
that class is or what's going on with that, right?
Wait, I'm not understanding. So this number 291, is that not different students? That could be
291 students earned
different
873.
Okay.
Yeah,
But they
so,
earned 540.
Okay.
yeah.
I got it.
So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that there
One
are
could have
students
gotten
at the
one,
high
one could
school
have
who
gotten
failed 1 class and got a little stung and went, oh, okay.
Are we,
But I
Your average
want
looks
to
like
see
it's-
if there's,
Your average looks like it's just under 2, right? 2 Fs per
Yep.
student.
Mhm.
But I know it's
If
not
that's-
distributed
yeah, I
that way,
understand
you're going to
what
have
you're saying.
variability,
Yeah.
but
that's exactly right.
that's
Yeah.
what's
So this is just the first examination of the data, and it's raw. It's just come through. I put together what I could. I know that that we have concerns based on this. If we're talking about the pass-fail option, we have to meet with our folks and talk about it.
Well, because we just started our marking period, correct? So if we, can give some guidance that we want to move forward with the pass-fail so that we're just starting our marking period, that's way the parents can opt in or opt out.
And there is time. I mean, I don't mean that to be a negative comment. I mean, the reality is when you get a few weeks into the marking period, even with the first marking period, that's typically when we had parent-teacher conferences. Students and parents start to see how children are doing. So perhaps we want to take a look at, what it looks like, report back in December. There's still time. In other words, our meeting is December 10th. It's still early. It's not even mid-marking for our students. And if it's a direction that, if we present something that the board feels is something, direction they'd like to go in, we'd still have the opportunity to have children opt in, probably even prior to the winter break, which is still only halfway through the second marking period.
Sure.
The concern is, I do hear both sides. I mean, I guess the benefit is that if parents and students don't want to opt in, they don't have to, right?
don't
They
have
can
to.
stick with the traditional.
I think it's a perfect plan because
Yeah.
everybody gets, just like you have virtual and hybrid.
Yeah,
You get
the-
to opt in.
Yeah, and
the only
that's not, I'm sorry, I was just going to say on the other end, and this is really for us to worry about, on the logistical side, it's more of the calculation piece. At the high school, it's the credits, and it's the what does that peer F translate into on the back end. So that's where, I don't want to speak for Chuck, but that's where I know I need to do a little bit more homework, because we don't want to make a decision that's going to hurt children down the road, like inadvertently. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because somebody who's suffering, and we all are suffering right now, but for a child who's really struggling, who even is an academic or is struggling, might say, you know what, I'm just doing pass-fail for now because I can't take it. I'm working because I'm helping my family. I have all these other things on my plate or whatever's happening. And then on the back end, when we come out of this, because we will, and the child is now getting the regular grades, I don't want the decision of the child or the family on the pass-fail to have a negative impact on the backside of it. That's the only thing I'm really worried about right now. You know, I don't want to mislead people.
No, I
You know?
agree with you. I
Yeah.
just, I guess we'll circle back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
it's a matter of
discussing it on December 10th is a good idea. I think that gives you an opportunity to
create a
meet with your
plan,
building
yeah.
principals who can meet with their faculty to
Absolutely.
determine, you know,
We'll
what
put
are
it
the
through
biggest,
Skip.
yeah, what are the biggest sources of the students that are failing? Are they students who just aren't submitting any work, who in a pass-fail situation, as Brad indicated, would probably still receive a failing grade? You know, try to hone into this a little more because, as you said, this is very raw data, and I'd rather see us roll out a grading policy once and get it right than have to make changes in a month or two.
I do have a question. We did look at that workflow, I think at our last meeting, of how the teachers would reach out to a family, and then if that didn't work, they would go to the next step.
Yes.
And so now, can we
That's
kind of
what-
back into that and see what happened? You know, were these kids on the radar? Were some missed on that radar?
Right.
How did that, because if that model's not working, then that needs to be kind
Well,
of.
that's the data, this is the data to use. And the question
And
is.
see, are these kids on that radar? Were they reached out to? And how do we handle that better if they were?
And I think that answer is going to be mixed.
And yeah, I mean, we do have some preliminary information. Natalie, we can speak more about that next time. I mean, what I'm hearing is that even when there is a reaching out, whether it's by the teacher or the counselor, that it's rare that the child's behavior changes. Now, that's not an excuse on anybody's side. It could be because the child is overwhelmed. It could be because the child has a job. It could be because the child is worried about their family. You know, there could be any number of reasons. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope that with all the layers of those things that we have in place, that when you get a number of calls from the school, that children start to round the curve, right? But we can take a look at the data that we have through the trauma-informed people and, of course, remove names and maybe look at the most often changes
see
in
if there's a
behavior or
trend.
consistent responses to those calls that are made by the trauma-informed people and by our counselors and our case
And if you
managers.
need to readjust or
Yeah.
do things differently to reach
Yeah, we can take
families
a
and
look at that.
students.
So the trauma coordinator, that's like a one call to kind of gauge what's going on, or is it like over multiple calls over?
It all depends. It's a guidance team is involved with that, and they're going to direct that. And then the trauma team is involved with that person. Oftentimes, when they have their meetings, they're talking about 4 or 5 students that they're concerned about. But they don't had, I mean, they had ancillary data, but they didn't have this, which is a definitive marking period grade,
Right.
and which is, a major concern on our part.
Do you know how many students they've worked with?
No, I don't have that number.
Not
no.
tonight. We can take a look at that for December.
What role, you addressed this a little bit last week, what role are the building level administrators, the principals and vice principals, playing in this outreach with the students who we see falling through the cracks? You know, because I don't think that this should all be on our faculty. I think that they have large
Oh,
class
yeah,
loads.
absolutely.
You know, what role are the administrators playing in this?
They are part of the flow charts that we looked at last
Yeah, I'm
week.
looking for it.
And do you see that across the board in every building that we're doing this? We're having building level administrators reach out to families, to students?
You know what, I think the only way we would know that, so what we're referring to is this chart that the board received last week,
Sure.
right? So from this chart, Kristen Gudenkoff, who's our Director of Guidance, has a chart that has all the children's names per school and then what action has occurred at each level. So for example, if Karen Davino was a child and I'm not working, I'm not turning in any assignments, etc., the teacher speaks to me first. If there's no response or improvement, the teacher contacts the guardian via email and phone. Anyway, they go through the steps. There is a step in here that includes the building principal, and the building principal does reach out to the guardian, and then there's a different path, no improvement or improvement. So I can't say where they are on that level. In other words, at some levels, problems have been solved prior to it getting to the principal, right? Maybe a call from the teacher or a call from the counselor or a call from the trauma-informed coordinator has done it to motivate the child or help the family. And in some cases, the principals are involved. So I can't speak to.
Yeah, I guess I would just say that I would hope that
we can look at that.
at this point, that when you have hundreds of students receiving D's and F's, that they're very involved, that you have like
Yeah.
fire
Yeah.
alarms going
I
off in
agree.
their offices, that they
Yeah.
are on the phone with these
Yeah.
families every day.
Yeah.
That's my question too. I guess I see the flow chart,
Right.
but now that you have the numbers, what
Yeah,
you
we-
can't tell from a flow chart
Yeah.
is capacity.
Look, we
Do-
have
do they have
work
the
to do.
capacity to handle the
Yeah.
numbers that we see here,
Mm.
or?
Listen, my philosophy, I was a building principal, and you know what, when I was a principal, I signed every report card that left my building when it went home, so that parents knew that I saw it before I went home. And for every child who had a D or an F, I called home. And to be honest, I required parent-teacher conferences if a child had a C or lower. But that was me, and that was a long time ago, and it was a smaller place, right? I mean, this is a much larger operation. So I don't know the level of involvement of our administrators yet, but these numbers just came out.
Yep.
They got them.
So-
They got them 2 hours.
Yeah, they
ago.
got them
Sure. I
this
just put it
afternoon.
together. Like
Yeah.
I said, thanks to Jen Shearhall and
But
all the efforts.
capacity would be one of those things you'll test to make sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I also have another question to build on what Mark's saying. The last podcast that went out weeks ago, we were told that there were multiple students failing. So, yes, we have, raw data.
Oh,
but
yeah, I
this
kn-
wasn't a big surprise.
Right,
And
no-
then, yeah.
Sorry.
The other thing is, though, but then in the podcast, it literally said that it was essentially blaming students' mental health. So
No.
if we're being told, that it's depression and seasonal depression's coming.
I'm concerned about that.
Right.
Yeah.
So then, who with a true mental health background is helping our students? If that was the information that came out a few weeks ago, now we're looking at raw data, and these numbers are high, of kids with low grades. And yes, we just saw the flow chart, but guidance counselors are not mental health professionals.
Right.
That is not their background. They have a job to do. They do it well.
Yep.
But because then what we're looking at, if it went into mental health, and now we have these numbers, and that's what was said in the podcast, then we essentially in our district have an epidemic of mental health issues, which what's being done then at that level? Because you can't say the kids have mental health issues. We can't hear from the parents about the mental health issues, then receive this raw data and say, oh yeah, we're just going to rely on this flow chart. Then we're failing our students' mental health, which is just as important as physical health, which quite frankly right now is the most important part. Mental health, in a sense, we want to keep our kids physically safe from COVID and everything else.
Sure.
But then their mental health is becoming a big issue as well too. So then
think
what
it-
is the
So-
district doing to handle that?
So, the trauma-informed coordinators were trained in the trauma-informed approach through STAR.org, which is a trauma organization that works. Now, it doesn't make them mental health professionals, please don't misunderstand me.
Okay,
So we
making
did
sure.
make sure that our trauma-informed coordinators all had training in the trauma-informed approach. So they should be providing.
So how much training did they receive? What exactly
They're all
did that entail?
certified.
I get that. I know what certification is, but I'm talking if someone went for a day training, that's a whole lot different than someone who has a certification or a degree or a
Right.
whole background in it. It's very different. It's night and day. And especially when we have this many number of failures, and it was said a few weeks ago, about the mental health. So now that's another component we probably should be looking at on a
Sure.
different conversation,
Sure.
different day.
No.
Right.
No, but it is definitely another component that we definitely have to look at.
And the reality is that the big elephant in the room is that a lot of these problems require solutions that we don't have either the number of staff necessary or the means of hiring the number of staff necessary to fully tackle. But I agree that it's something that we need to discuss.
Agree. Okay.
I forgot about my letter that I was supposed to read. I'm sorry. This is from Kelly Cosenza of Vernon. I have 3 children that attend Vernon schools since pre-K and have always been happy with everything Vernon schools have to offer. I'm especially thankful for all the wonderful teachers, faculty, and administration that work hard to make our schools great. As we have entered into uncharted territory with the current pandemic this past March, I understand that things are constantly changing by the second. With all these changes, it would be so helpful to the students, parents, and teachers to have a cohesive program for virtual. The current virtual program in hybrid or full virtual is very confusing. Each grade and class have their own planned program in place. We need a plan that can deliver simplicity and as much interaction between the student and teacher. This will open the door to getting the children engaged to what the teacher is teaching when in virtual format. I would like to suggest that a committee comprised of, this is Kelly's idea. I would like to suggest that a committee comprised of teachers, parents, and students be put together to review what is and is not working for virtual. Let's look at the positives and negatives to try and put a stronger program in place. Thank you for your time. Yeah, Kelly had brought that up too
I'm sorry?
You brought that up too last week, a committee of people to focus on how to improve it.
I can't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Can anybody hear me? Did anybody hear any of that?
We heard some of it.
Yeah.
Make sure you okay, good. To the mic, yeah. Last week, you brought up a committee for
To look at the virtual.
yeah,
learning.
to look at the improving virtual. So
Yes, I'm
she's
willing,
recommending.
I'm willing to do that. Like, you had said that you would be willing to do that. I think Teresa,
Yeah, I'll do it.
and Justin. So the four,
It's a student life
You were
committee.
just assigned.
No, we've spoke, it's
No,
a student life
okay, we
committee.
talked about
She's
it.
He was
talking about
voluntold.
although I would volunteer him for no reason.
No, it's
I
called
know you would.
voluntold. In education, we call it voluntold.
Oh, voluntold. I voluntold you. So the four of us will work collectively together, and we can meet next week if you want. We could start. But yes, absolutely.
Okay. I'd like to return to the agenda this time.
Justin, I'm going to bow out.
Yes.
Are we on the
Okay.
agenda?
Have a safe flight.
Just so the public knows, I have to go pick up my daughter at school tomorrow. She got a COVID test. She's fine, so she's coming from South Carolina. No need to worry.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Flying down,
Happy
driving right
Thanksgiving.
back.
Yeah,
So,
enjoy your holiday, Brad.
thank you.
Happy
travels, Brad.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Brad.
Safe driving.
Okay. Item K is the superintendent's report. Ms. Davina?
Okay. I think I'm going to go in, if the board and the public doesn't mind, I'll go in reverse order only because letters A through D have some positive news, and it might be nice to have some positives for a minute if everybody wants to take a deep breath, and we'll have some positives. I
How is
know that it's a hard time.
That's not reverse order. That's next.
I know, but I have my report that I
Oh, understood.
mailed to the board that
Okay.
also needs to be presented,
Got it.
right? So, anyway, my apologies. Under informational matters, letter 1A, special congratulations to Melody Bucherri, grade 8, Susan Mentone, grade 7, and Olivia Schmidt, grade 7, whose artwork was displayed at the virtual Hispanic Heritage Month Novartis-sponsored art show contest on October 28th, 2020, under the direction of art teacher Miss Lisa Herkler. Students submitted artwork around the theme of what would the world look like without racism. The artwork is also displayed on the Glen Meadow blog. Letter B. Glen Meadow Middle School and Vernon Township High School were awarded a grant of 100 red tulip bulbs from the Center for Prevention and Counseling entitled Plant the Promise. Plant the Promise is a nationally recognized initiative each fall with an emphasis on prevention, education, and commitment to living a safe, healthy, and drug-free life. Plant the Promise took place during Red Ribbon Week. Students planted red tulip bulbs in each schoolyard that will serve as a reminder of the importance and the beauty of living a drug-free life. Just as a side note, the coalition, not only were they here last week, which we really appreciated, but the coalition action group spent some time this evening over at Maple Grange Park doing some cleanup, so they're always taking care of our community, so a special shout out to them. Letter C, this year's 20th annual What's Your Anti-Drug contest had over 400 entries representing 24 schools in Sussex County. All the entries were wonderful, and the judges had the tough job of selecting 55 winning entries. The winners from both Lounsbury Hollow School and Glen Meadow School are listed below. Lillian Appleby from Lounsbury Hollow, Mae Bressler from Lounsbury Hollow, Nick DeVary from Lounsbury Hollow, Adrian Kovacs from Lounsbury Hollow, Alicia Kovacs from Lounsbury Hollow, Danielle Getz from Glen Meadow, and Jayla Rodriguez from Glen Meadow.
Great work.
Yes, congratulations to the winners, and be sure to thank them for their creativity. The contest has been going on for over 20 years, and students like the message and are proud to share their anti-drugs. A big thank you to our Vernon baseball team and Coach Myron for their volunteerism this past weekend. 32 student athletes cleaned up leaves in 6 yards in town. This is the second year, I believe, that Coach Myron has done a service project with his baseball team at the high school.
Good.
We're always pleased and excited when our students pay it forward in our community. And we'd like to announce tonight congratulations to our field hockey team at the high school. They beat Hackettstown today. Was it Hackettstown? right?
Hackettstown, 3-1.
Hackettstown, 3-1. Saturday morning, we are hosting 11 o'clock Saturday morning at the high school. It is the first round, I guess, of the state regional
State
competition.
regionals, yeah, this is big time.
It's very, very big for our girls' field hockey. So if you're around Saturday morning at 11, please come up to the high school. Stay socially distanced, wear a mask.
In the next podcast, we'll get some pictures of Coach Myron, because we have some pictures
Yeah,
of
it's
the boys
excellent.
doing the raking, and 11 o'clock's home.
Yeah.
So congratulations, Coach Clean and the team. Big win.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. I'd like to continue on to my superintendent's report. For the members of the public, I apologize. This was emailed to the board earlier today, but you do not have it. I will read it, and then Jennifer Smith, our board secretary, always finds the time to get it up on the website shortly thereafter. So the first item is SGO letter, which is student growth objectives. Any of you that are out there who are educators know what I'm talking about. Dr. McKay, Assistant Superintendent, and I have composed a letter to the Commissioner of Education regarding the use of SGOs by the state of New Jersey. We feel strongly that the use of SGOs is not necessary given COVID-19. Also, SGOs were created to establish another metric for teachers to be measured by where SGPs could not be used. Since SGPs last year could not be utilized due to the lack of standardized testing, we feel that SGOs should not be used now to measure growth in the teacher evaluation process. We do feel that student growth needs to be measured, especially considering the pandemic's interruption of traditional teaching methods. Did you want to add anything to that, Chuck, before I
Sure.
continue?
Student growth proficiencies are based on the national test that's given at the end of the year. The fact of the matter is, because we were in a lockdown situation last year, there was no NJSLAM and no NJSLA, and therefore the students did not have that piece. Now, according to the way teachers are evaluated, that's one piece in their evaluation. And what they do is they take a median score based on a target audience that the teacher identifies. It'll be one of their classes in the high school or all of their classes if they're an elementary teacher. And in grades 3 through 8 in math and language arts, they're evaluated based on that SGP. The state has now said that we don't have SGPs because we don't have testing data to show growth from the year before. So the system that the state has created that first came in with about 8 years ago is now starting to fall apart because we don't have testing from the year before to show growth. So when people are concerned about 2 or 3 years going and where those numbers would be, if we have another year where there's no testing, although they did announce today, they usually tell us, just so parents know, they usually tell us in July the testing window dates, and then we put it together. We get our IT team together and we get the kids ready to take the test. They did not tell us until today, or yesterday. It was the 18th. Yesterday. And so we thought at first maybe there wouldn't even be testing this year, right? But it looks like they're going to try to get it, but they pushed the testing window from March to May, now from May to June. So the last day that we can test is June 10th. So we've started the process of looking at that, but we're not even convinced that the state's going to do that. This is a long way to say the SGO system, which is set up based on the teachers' evaluations of the students at the beginning of the year with benchmark tests and the end of the year with benchmark tests, is meant to supplement the SGP situation where the teachers are being evaluated. So now they've said, well, since we don't have that, we're just going to do SGOs, and we're saying, based on what? What happens if we pull the students out of education for a while? Or what happens if we have students that are struggling, like our students are? How is this even a value-based system? So what we're doing is we're sending a letter to the governor, to the commissioner, now that we have an educational commissioner, and saying to them, we need to pull the plug on this system because it's not working right now. So I just want everybody to be aware that we are writing that letter.
Right. The next item is HIB training, which is harassment, intimidation, and bullying. The administrative team of the Vernon Township School District completed HIB, harassment, intimidation, and bullying training this week. The workshop meets the requirements of training. Mr. Wallach, Director of Security, conducted the in-service. It included a presentation of school-level data, locations of incidents, interview protocols, procedures, correspondence, communication with families, and a brief discussion on future preventative measures, programs, and plans for ways to decrease HIB violations in the schools. The next item is the COVID update, which is, I'll read my
I'm going to pass this.
statement to the board. They should have it. It
we
should
have
be.
it.
You have it?
Oh,
It's
okay.
behind it.
Okay, good. We got it. That's from this morning, right?
Yeah.
It should be in your superintendent's report, but if it's not, I'm sorry, Chuck.
We have
Okay.
that in the attachment.
Yeah. COVID-19 update. On Friday, November 13th, the superintendents of Sussex County met with the Sussex County Department of Health. They provided us with 2 considerations. As Sussex County approaches orange status, which we will likely get to by Thanksgiving or sooner, the Department of Health asks us to consider 2 weeks of virtual teaching and learning after Thanksgiving and 2 weeks of virtual teaching and learning after the winter break. Number 2, as Sussex County approaches orange status, which we would like to get to by Thanksgiving or sooner, the Department of Health asks us to consider virtual learning from 2 weeks after Thanksgiving until 2 weeks after the winter break. It is clear to me that the County Department of Health is working around the clock and are significantly understaffed for the tasks at hand, which include but are not limited to contact tracing, verifying test results, and communicating with schools. It is also clear that cases have spiked significantly since last week. You can assess this just by the number of letters that Dr. McKay and I have sent to the community based on the higher rates of transmission. While I remain optimistic and proud that COVID is not being contracted in our schools, it may be simply a matter of time as the numbers in our region increase. In addition, the Office of Emergency Management reported that last weekend Vernon saw a 26-person jump of COVID-19 test results, which equals a 9% increase. Some of this can be attributed to increased testing, which will, of course, show increased cases. Superintendents asked when it might be appropriate to reopen should we close our schools during the orange phase. The County Department of Health indicated that when Sussex County becomes yellow might be a good indication of when schools can resume in-person instruction. Here is some important information based on the COVID-19 activity level report. For the weeks ending October 24th, October 31st, and November 7th, I've listed the case rates, and I will amend and make a brief statement here that I received the week ending November 14th COVID-19 activity report this afternoon after I wrote my report, and I did include it for the board. I will include those numbers as well as I read the data to the public. The case rate numbers are cases per 100,000. And for the board members, if you look at the bottom portion of the COVID-19 activity level reports, which are attached, there's an indication of how the Cali COVID activity level index number is calculated. In that section, the case rate a county needs to be orange is 25. So on October 31st, the number is 15.12. On October 24th, it was 10.85. On November 7th, it was 24.22. That's why the County Department of Health called us together last week. When they saw the number at 24.22, they were fearing we would be orange, which is 25. Today, when the report came out, our number was 34.03. And I wrote, I'm fairly certain.
What was the number?
34.03.
We have the data.
Yeah, it's in there.
Right.
I'm fairly certain that by the time the board convenes, and I wrote this earlier today, Sussex County will be in an orange status. Therefore, it is my recommendation that the Vernon Township School District, effective after Thanksgiving, be on virtual instruction for all students through the Martin Luther King weekend. We will resume in-person instruction on Tuesday, January 19th, as long as Sussex County is in yellow status and it is safe to do so. Dr. McKay, Assistant Superintendent, and I have scheduled listening sessions with every faculty on November 30th to best facilitate continued collaboration and communication in order to reopen our schools safely, effectively, and expeditiously. This action provides proper mitigation of the spread of COVID to the best of our ability. It also allows the school district to plan for in-person instruction as soon as we are able to resume. The recent upswing in COVID activity has made it extremely difficult to properly staff our buildings for instruction. I worry that it is only a matter of time before students or teachers inadvertently infect each other. While the cases we have seen related to school personnel and students appear mild with good recovery rates, the virus is highly infectious and the risks, as our numbers increase, are too great. This change in schedule is a decision made with a heavy heart. For those who know how I feel about students and schooling, our children belong here. They belong with their teachers and friends in a school setting, learning in the best way possible. I will continue to strive to make this a reality at 5 days a week where possible before the end of the school year. I wanted to add that I was also informed later in the day that it's likely by Thanksgiving we'll be in the red zone, which is at high risk, and that's where we were in March and April of 2020 when everything was shut down. I pray that doesn't happen. I want to thank our parents, and I want to apologize to you. For people who are close to me, probably Chuck, he knows how hard this has been for me as a parent, and that all I've wanted is what you want, is to have our kids in school 5 days a week. I have felt sometimes that I've sacrificed our children. I apologize to you for that. I felt at times that I have not been able to provide enough for our children. I'm sorry. I feel that I have sometimes put the needs of, I think somebody mentioned, the politics and the push-pull, and I did write down everybody's names. I am going to try to get back to everyone who spoke tonight because I think it's important, that I've had to be cognizant of a whole lot of different influences. And when I looked at the numbers today, I was heartbroken because I knew that I would have to make a decision that was going to further hurt our families and our community, that would further hurt our children, hurt my children. My children are in the same position as many of yours. We've had mental breakdowns, we've had Fs, we've had depression, we've had not getting off the couch, we've had sleeping for 16 hours, we've had not eating, not showering, etc. And I feel awful that as your superintendent, that I was not able to deliver what I know our children need. But I do want to state publicly that when Dr. McKay and I spoke with the leadership of the union today, I did indicate that in those listening sessions on November 30th, we will listen, but that I feel like the plan that we almost had on November 16th was a good one.
Yes.
It was 4 half-days a week of socially distanced, but I felt that we could get to 5 half-days a week of socially distanced with blue and gold combined, and I still think we can get there. And in the letter that I just read to you, I did write that I will continue to strive to make it a reality at 5 days a week where possible. So I'm hoping that as soon as we can get back to yellow, and I don't know when that's going to be, folks. I mean, I hope it's January 19th, but it could be March, and it could be May. I don't know that. But as soon as we get back to yellow, that we try to resume as much in-person instruction as possible. When the Department of Health called all of us together last week for an emergency meeting, we knew that it was going to be bad. And I wish that we had a way to have everybody here safely without the rising numbers. So, my report for this evening does include, I know, some very disappointing news and some news that everybody will have to handle in their own way. And I wish that we weren't dealing with the COVID challenges that we're facing, but it's unfortunate that we are. And I agree, it is impacting mental health, it is impacting the social development of our children, and it is impacting them academically. Shall I continue?
Yes, thank you.
Number 2A, recommendations. It is recommended that the board approve the following faculty, staff resignations, retirements, terminations, leaves, transfers, assignment changes, appointments, stipends, salary adjustments, student teaching, mentoring as listed. For the board members, it begins, the table is on page 4 and a small portion on the top of page 5.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2A?
Move.
Mr. Chili, second.
Second.
Mr. Sweeney, questions or comments?
I have a question about the salary adjustment. I sent an email, but I was wondering the $7,000 increase.
Yes.
That is for the position as secretary to the CST director.
Yes.
We don't have a director, so, and we haven't had one for a while, and there's not much on the horizon. So what happens, like, with that increase since the position is?
What I've done until we have a director is I've created a job description in which I've highlighted all the additional things that she is taking on due to the passing of our other secretary. And at this point, this is a situation where she's taking on the responsibility because of her knowledge base and her hard work and effort. And then what we hope to do once we have a director is we will make sure that there is a consolidation of her position, one other secretarial position, and making sure that that department is working efficiently. So,
Yeah, because that's a question I have. Now, how many secretaries do we have in special services?
with that group, there's two with the CST, and then one over here. Well,
We
two.
only have one now.
We have one now.
Yeah, well, it's the person whose name is on the agenda and one other person right now.
Right.
Okay, so then the one other person, the one other secretary,
Yes.
is that person getting an increase as well?
She's not, I don't think she's taking on any additional
No,
responsibility.
remember how we talked about the substitute secretaries that we're going to use to make sure that we can adjust things and make sure that they're covered? And then we will wait to see. No, she is not taking on additional responsibilities. The person who we're talking about this evening is the one who's taken on all the additional responsibilities.
And that's a permanent
This is
take
a
on of
permanent,
these
yes, this is a
other
permanent
responsibilities,
salary
right.
increase
Yep.
for this person, and the temporary secretary will be used to help that
Right.
other secretary to make sure things get done. And then when that's finished, we will not use the substitute secretary anymore, and we'll be doing it with two people.
Which is a consolidation of headcount from. Yep.
Just in the
Yep.
same way we did in the personnel
Yep.
office, which we will continue to do as we move forward with the financial situation that we're in.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
No?
Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Pellet?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Nunziata?
Yes.
Mrs. Cherry?
Yes.
Mr. Tilly?
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan?
You know, I'm going to say no because I never saw that. I sent out an email and I never got anything, so I would say no because I would have liked to have seen that job description prior.
Motion carries.
Okay. Mr. Vino?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Letter B, it is recommended that the board approve the harassment, intimidation, bullying, school safety, and random drug testing reports.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2B?
To move?
Mr. Chili, second.
Second.
Mr. Peak, questions or comments?
I didn't get the report. When did we get it? Last week?
I don't think there, was there
No,
anything?
no, no.
There were
No, there's
letters.
nothing.
Was
So
anything.
there's no report. It's not.
Nope.
We just have to approve it as a formality. Any other questions or comments? Can we please have a roll call vote?
Dr. Heath?
Yes.
Ms. Pellet?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Nunziata?
Yes.
Mr. Cherry?
Yes.
Mr. Tilly?
Yes.
You're done.
Mrs. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item C?
I don't know that this should be on the agenda because it has not reflected the change that was discussed via email, so I'm not sure how to proceed.
You can pull, you can pull the recommendation.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to pull my recommendation.
Okay. Item D?
Thank you. Letter D, it is recommended that the board approve professional development travel that complies with the provisions of New Jersey statutes annotated NJSA 18A:11-12, attachment B.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2D?
To move?
Mr. Chili, second.
Second?
Mr. Peak, questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Nunziata?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Tilly?
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Ms. Pellet?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Letter E, it is recommended that the board approve the following policies, regulations for a second reading for members of the board. They're at the bottom of page 5, starting with policy 1620, administrative employment contracts, going through the top of page 6, bylaws 0164.6, remote public board meeting during a declared emergency.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2E?
To move.
Mr. Chili, second.
Second.
Ms. Bucieri, questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Nunziata?
Yes.
Mrs. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Tilly?
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin?
Abstain.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Ms. Pellet?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Item L.
Two informational items, the field trip for the baseball team that was to help with the leaves. And according to New Jersey Administrative Code, I certify that as of October 30th, no budgetary line item accounts has obligations or payments in which the total exceed the amount appropriated by the District Board of Education pursuant to New Jersey statutes 18A 22-A and 18A 22-8.1.
Thank you.
Recommendations. It is recommended that the board approve the following financial reports, list of checks for November 2020.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2A?
To move.
Mr. Chili, second.
Second.
Mr. Sweeney, questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Nunziata?
Yes.
Mrs. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Tilly?
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin?
Yes, but abstain from checks noted.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Ms. Pellet?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Recommend that the board approve a list of hand checks for October 2020 in the amount of $3,562,926.15.
Are you on? Oh, those were all part of
Yeah, I
two.
would have just moved all of those. Is
Yeah,
that
we
what you're
did.
doing?
Yeah, that.
Oh, okay, because I didn't read
Yeah,
those.
the motion for 2A
Okay.
would include all of those.
All right, very good.
No
Sorry. Item B, it is recommended that the board accept the report of the secretary for the current operating fund for the month of October 2020, and the report of the treasurer for school monies for the month of October 2020.
Okay.
The board,
Can we
okay.
get a motion for recommendation 2B?
To move.
Mr. Chili, second.
Second.
Mr. Sweeney, questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Tilly?
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Ms. Pellet?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Nunziata?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
It is recommended that the board approve the transportation contracts as listed below.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2C?
To move.
Mr. Chili, second.
Second.
Ms. Coughlin, questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Tilly?
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Ms. Pellet?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Nunziata?
Yes.
Mrs. Bucieri?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item D, it is recommended that the board approve the following related services.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2D?
To move.
Mr. Chili, second.
Second.
Mr. Sweeney, questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Coughlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Ms. Pellet?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Nunziata?
Yes.
Mrs. Bucieri?
Yes.
Mr. Tilly?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item E, it is recommended that the board approve the list of work session and public meeting dates from January 2021 through June 2021 for publication and posting as required.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2E?
To move.
Mr. Chili, second.
Second.
Mr. Sweeney, questions or comments? I'm looking forward to spending April Fool's Day with all of you. Can we have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Item F, it is recommended that the board approve to terminate the district benefits with Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey Group Medical and Prescription Drug Insurance Policy, Group Number 85726, effective March 1st, 2021.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2F?
To move.
Mr. Chili, second.
Second.
Ms. Bucieri, questions or comments? Ms. Reese, do you feel, in your opinion, that it would be appropriate for, if you were a conflicted board member, to abstain on that matter?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
If a
What?
board member is conflicted due to a personnel reason,
yes.
should they abstain, in your opinion?
It's not individual specific, so I don't think they need to.
Not
but-
necessary?
No.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 It is
Thank you.
recommended that the board approve the attached resolution to authorize participation in the New Jersey State Health Benefits Program effective March 1st, 2020.
Can we have a motion for 2G?
To move.
Mr. Chili?
Second.
By Ms. Coughlin. Questions or comments?
Did we, I sent the email, it's not changed,
Yes.
not
We
reflected
need
here?
to amend the resolution, which is
I have the
attached.
amended copy here if you need to say it.
Yeah.
I took care of that. Yep.
Yeah, I think we can read that into the record, right? The amended
Yes, that would be
change?
fine.
Yeah. Donna, did you want to read the amended change or no?
On item G, we have amended the hours in the resolution to read 25 versus 30
On the attachment?
on the attachment, yeah.
Item
Okay.
4.
Right. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Item H, it is recommended that the board accept the Unified Champions School Grant in the amount of $2,000. The grant will be used to defer costs associated with Vernon's participation in the New Jersey Special Olympics program for the 2020-2021 school year.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2H?
To move.
Mr. Chili, second.
Second.
Ms. Bucieri, questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. Item I, it is recommended that the board approve the Plan Connect as a third-party administrator to our 403B and 457 plans effective January 1st, 2021, at no cost to the district.
Can we have a motion for 2I?
To move.
Mr. Chili, second.
Second.
Ms. Bucieri, questions or comments? Seeing none, can I please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. It is recommended that the board approve teacher's pension as a provider of 403B and 457 services for eligible employees effective January 1st, 2021, at no cost to the district.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2J?
To move.
Mr. Chili, second.
Second.
Mr. Peak, questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Nunziata?
Yes.
Mrs. Gutierrez?
Yes.
Mr. Chili?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Yes.
It is recommended that the board accept the 2019-2020 CAFRA Certified Financial Annual Report, which is at your desk.
Can we have a motion for 2K?
To move.
Mr. Chili, second.
Second.
Ms.
Oh,
Cotton? Excuse me.
I beat you.
You woke up?
I beat you.
Questions or comments?
Whichever.
That should just read comprehensive annual financial report, not certified, for the minutes.
Oh, comprehensive, sorry.
That's
You're
okay.
right.
Any other questions or comments? Can we please have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Gutierrez?
Yes.
Mr. Chili?
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin?
Abstain.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Ms. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Nunziata?
Yes.
Motion carries.
It is recommended that the board approve the 2019-2020 Corrective Action Plan as attached.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2L?
To move.
Mr. Chili, second.
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 Ms. Bucieri, questions or comments?
I do have a question. So, once we reconciled the ASSA, was everything lined up? Was there any discrepancies?
Well, that was the reason that there was a recommendation, because it was not reconciled. Generally, what you have to do is you have to take the school register and reconcile those numbers into the ASSA software.
Mm-hmm.
And there was not a match in those two numbers. So they were
Okay.
not reconciled. So that's the corrective action plan, is to make sure that happens every year going forward.
I don't know if I'm understanding. So was the reconciliation just not done, or it did not reconcile when it was done?
It did not reconcile.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. I wasn't clear on like what that was. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Chili?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Abstain.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Ms. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Nunziata?
Yes.
Mrs. Gutierrez?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item M, it is recommended that the board approve permitting the following students to attend Vernon Township Public Schools according to board policy number 5111. Students number 11624 and 13205 are children of an employee of the district, and they are permitted to stay at the high school as a 10th grader and at Glen Meadows as a 7th grader for the 2020-21 year without paying tuition.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2M?
To move.
Mr. Chili, second.
Second.
Mr. Sweeney, questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Coughlin?
Abstain.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Ms. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Nunziata?
Yes.
Mrs. Gutierrez?
Yes.
Mr. Chili?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item N, it is recommended that the board approve accent on communication for the independent speech evaluations as needed at approximately $90 an hour, and I think this is going to be modified, correct?
It'll
You
be
can-
amended, I think we
You
need
can,
a first and
no, you
second
can,
first.
you can modify the recommendation before we have a
So
motion.
the recommendation is for $120 an hour.
Can we have a motion on recommendation 2N?
To move.
Mr. Chili, second.
Second.
Ms. Bucieri, questions or comments? Ms. Coggan, were your questions answered on this?
No, they were not.
Okay, so what was your question exactly?
Well, I understood about the $120 an hour change. The first thing that caught my eye is because I know that speech therapists don't make only $90 an hour, so that's what caught my eye. And I appreciate the clarity of, saying it's 120. But my question is this IEP driven, or is this accent on communication going to be utilize as a regular vendor in our school district?
No, this one's IEP driven.
Okay, thank you, that's what I need to know. But then the other thing is, it says on here, my only concern is, it said that as needed. So meaning as needed, like once we approve this for $120 an hour, this vendor will be here all the time as needed, or this IEP driven? I guess that's just the point I'm trying to clarify.
Can you say that again, Teresa? I'm sorry.
Okay, oh, no problem, sorry. Everyone here? I know it's tough. Oh. So my question is Accent for Communication IEP driven, which you said it is, and then when it says here as needed, is Accent on Communication going to be a ongoing vendor in the school district?
Not that I'm aware of. This vendor
Okay.
is being, we're recommending the approval of this vendor for one
IEP.
child who's in need of specific services that this vendor provides that are different from other services.
Okay.
And it is in the child's IEP.
Perfect. So then could we just have it changed from as needed, like, you know, for IEP driven, something like that?
Oh, IEP driven?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
something so it
Okay.
clarifies it's not a regular
Certainly.
vendor.
Okay. Any
So
other questions?
as described in the IEP, it'd be fine?
No, I don't want to identify anybody. Just maybe
required?
like IEP driven. I just want to
Okay.
clarify that it's not a regular vendor. That's all.
Right. I think if it were, and Teresa, tell me if this is okay, but accent on communication for independent speech evaluations and services as per the IEP.
Yeah. Well,
I know we're talking IEP driven. How do
For a
you want to
student-specific
amend?
basis, right?
I'm sorry?
For a student-specific basis?
There you go. Possibly. I mean, I'm just trying to, I just want to clarify, if someone's being brought in as a consultant or a vendor for a particular situation, that's fine. But, or if the vendor will be used, you know, as backup, and that's the difference I was just trying to get to the bottom of.
Yeah. No, it's not for backup. It is for an
Okay.
IEP.
That's all I wanted to make sure,
Okay.
and then have it reflect as such.
Okay, so let's clarify the wording before we vote. So, Mr. Sweeney's suggestion, if we were to amend the motion to, it is recommended that the board approve Accent on Communication for independent speech evaluations at approximately $120 per hour on a student-specific basis.
I don't know if that,
Or on a-
if it fits. I don't know if
Yeah,
it
you could
fits.
put which is IEP driven,
Or-
something like
or
that.
Driven by student IEP,
What he said, and then the IEP driven.
on a student-specific basis, driven by IEP. Okay, can we have a motion to amend the motion as stated?
To move.
Mr. Chili, second. Mr. Sweeney, all in favor with the motion to amend?
Aye.
Okay, the motion's amended. Can we have a roll call vote on the amended motion?
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr.
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Carter? Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Annunziata?
Yes.
Mrs. Gutierrez?
Yes.
Mrs. Chili?
Yes.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you have any other matters this evening, Ms. Reese?
No, not
Thank
tonight.
you. Item M is public participation, and this is for items on the agenda or any other business. If you would like to make a comment, please come to the podium and share your name, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak.
Good evening. I am Vicki Smith. I live in the Lake Walk-Hill section of Vernon. I teach high school English in Vernon Township High School. I am also the president of the Vernon Township Education Association. I want to first state the obvious. After hearing the concerns of the parents, we're with you. We understand. This is a horrible situation, and everyone is suffering. Our children, students are suffering, our administration is suffering, our parents are suffering, and our educators are suffering. The concerns that you have for your children, we have them too. We are trying our darndest to do our best, but this is something that no one has done before. I encourage reaching out continually to your children's teachers. I want to, as a matter of fact, at 8:30, I just got a email from one of my students because I was concerned about her. We're doing this. We are reaching out outside of office hours. We are being considerate of students that hand in things late. I personally accepted anything that a student didn't hand in up until the end of the first marking period, with no points taken off, which if anybody I had their student before knows that that's not me. I usually take points off. We're trying. We understand. We are also suffering, okay? And I don't want, it's not us against you, we have to be in this together. Please understand that there's two things that concern me. One, that was mentioned that we were planning a sick out. That never happened. I'm the president. That didn't happen. Okay? And the other was that someone said that we're using children as political pawn. To what end? Nobody gains anything with our children suffering. We see the suffering of our students. We know they're struggling. I have a student that's working 2 jobs, and I'm worried about him. So we have to work together. I was very fortunate that I had a conversation with Ms. McCann, the president of the SCA, and she reached out. She says, what can we do? It's like, let's talk. We'll try and figure something out. We're trying to do our best. There's no perfect answer. The perfect answer would be COVID goes away, we all go back to school, and we all go back to our lives as normal. Hopefully that'll happen sooner rather than later. But please, just know that, I think everyone is doing everything in their power to get through this. Let's not, and if I came across that way, I apologize. It's not what I meant. My first and foremost, and I've said this multiple times to administration, is the health and safety of our students and teachers, educators. That's first and foremost. And I think it should be for everyone. I think one thing that's positive about the parents that spoke tonight, they have one thing, their children have one thing on their side. They have parents that care. And that's a million things. I mean, that you can't ask for anything better. Because I've had to teach students where parents weren't there for them. So your kids have that. And keep in mind, kids are resilient. They'll get through this. I think of my parents that went through the World War II and the Depression. It was horrible. They survived. We'll get through it. We'll get them caught up. The whole country's going through this. So it's not just Vernon students. It's all students everywhere. I have friends in different districts. They're all they're all struggling, we're all worried. So let's work together. If there's something specific that we can do for your student, we're here. We want to do it. So I want us to come together as that Vernon community. I live here. The majority of our educators live here. They have children that are in the school system. They're struggling as well. So if we can come together and work together, we're here. Let's not, it's never going to be perfect, ever, until we go back and do what we do best. But right now we can't. And we kind of have to accept that and do the best we can with what we have. So I thank you for everyone for listening, but I felt that as I was hearing everyone speak, that someone from the educator's side should also speak, just so you know that we're suffering too. And this board saw me break down at one meeting. I usually don't do that in public. And I've had several members come to me. Several members are seeking mental health assistance. It's affecting us all. So let's all work together and hold each other up, not drag each other down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Adina Luthner from Pleasant Valley Lake. Just some thoughts running through my head while we were discussing grades and pass-fail, and hearing some parents saying how second and fourth graders are failing classes, which should never be. I did notice during the first marking period, if a student did not hand in work, it was a 0. In all of my years of teaching, I have never given a 0. A 0 is really hard to come back from. So while we're discussing pass-fail, and we're hearing that kids are breaking down, that 0 can be the difference between the C and the D, or the D and the F. So maybe we need to fix our grade book that an incomplete or a missing or a certain amount of them is a 50. An F is an F, but there's a huge difference between a 0 and a 50.
Great point.
That's it.
Ashley Hinton, I'm from the Sussex side of Vernon. Mrs. Smith, if I may.
Oh, if you could address the board during public
Sure.
comment section. Thank
Of course. To the board, to the members of the public, I think you're missing the point in which the parents are asking what we're looking for. We're noticing that we're failing, right? Virtual isn't the say-all to end-all. So what are we going to do as educators, as board members, as administrators, to fix this flawed program? We get it. COVID's here. Apparently it's not going anywhere, right? We're in this. So what are we going to do? The parents are frustrated. We're annoyed. We want answers. We're in the dark. Yes, there are teachers that are going above and beyond, but there are some that are not. And the children are suffering. And when it comes down to it, it's the children that are going to be our future. They're the ones that are going to be running this board one day. They're the ones that are going to be running the country, our town. Do we want kids that were failing to be the ones that are running these institutions? They're not going to have the academic building blocks. For the little kids, they're going to not have the socialization to get up and have meetings like this. So while we understand in-person instruction is not going to maintain for right now or even happen on the basis that we want it to, what are your solutions? I'm hearing a lot of, we understand, we care. What are your solutions?
Danielle Filato, the Cedar Ridge section of Vernon. Do we have the means as a district to do synchronous learning where at the younger grades, the teachers are in the classroom teaching? I don't know if it's a tech issue or if it's a bandwidth issue here in Vernon, but they're actually in the classroom synchronous with our children, like Pompton Lakes, for instance. My best friend is a teacher. She has to report to the classroom every single day. She's teaching, they're tuned in, they're virtual, she's present. Like, why are we?
That's our synchronous model in K through 5. Our teachers, for the most part, are in the classroom.
We're not seeing, I'm not seeing that, so I didn't know if that was like a standard. They have to be in the classroom?
Yeah. They're in the classroom, there's no students in front of them.
You have designated virtual teachers and designated in-person teachers, and you don't like that? That's
so I guess I'm
supposed to
seeing
be better.
whereas some teachers are both virtual, right, and not virtual. So they're not only teaching virtual, but like, so the days my son is not present or not synchronous, there's nothing. There's no interaction at all. So like, how do we get to a point where it's that constant, blue and gold together,
Right.
and they're present, they're there. There's that constant day to day.
Right, that's the goal. The goal is to bring the two together and then have the teacher teaching synchronously as well. At the high school level, you're seeing that, but not the blue and gold together.
So we know, and from talking, and all of us talking, and we're all on the same page that yes, it's tasking for everybody. This is terrible, the situation we're in, but like the virtual learning, we need that committee. We need that plan. We need something to change. Virtual learning for these kids is not working. Our plan is not working.
Right.
So we need to do better to come up with a plan. And I feel like this team that you speak of, and I don't know, I speak for myself and, you know, many others, that it needs to improve, for sure. Because obviously, we came here knowing, and I mentioned it, we were days away, weeks away. We know we're in a COVID situation, we're going to be shut down. But how do we make the virtual days that are now going to be so much longer better? We need to do that.
Megan Clark, Highland Lake section of Vernon. I'm a teacher in Somerset, physical education. I've been on the computer since September 1st with my students, asynchronous, jumping in front of the computer, period to period, logging in and out. Why can't that happen here? It should be happening. My son's in 2nd grade. He is struggling. Why can't the teachers log on half day, period 1, period 2, period 3? I'm doing it pre-K through 5th grade every day. There's no reason why it can't happen here. None. And if we want to do what's best for the kids, that's what's best for the kids. I've been virtual since September 1st. I am going back to school on November 30th, in the worst of this.
Your whole district was virtual?
My whole district is virtual.
Right.
We've been asynchronous since September 1st.
Right. Okay, well,
But that's a different thing.
that's a whole different model. Yeah, I get it. When-
But why can't that happen here?
It will, if we're virtual.
When?
The challenge is that when you have the entire virtual student body, you have one cohort of teachers to one cohort of students. When you have a hybrid model combined with a virtual model, you end up having 3 cohorts of students at any given moment, and you have one cohort of teachers still.
The district you're working in has not brought students back live.
There are special educations back live right now.
Right, but other than that, you're
Everyone is virtual.
Right.
We are all going back on November 30th. But
Right.
we've been with those kids since day one.
Yeah,
Sure.
but that's
And when I go back to school, there will still be the kids that are home. There will be actually a blue and gold team, because our colors are blue and gold in Franklin Township, New Jersey. We will have kids, I will have kids in front of me on the blue team. I will have kids on the computer that I have to teach both at the same time. And I will also have my remote kids, so everyone is on the same page.
Right.
Then when the next week comes, the gold group will come in, the blue team will now be home on the computer, and I will still be teaching everyone. I think that's what this district has to push for, because my son is definitely.
That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing.
That's exactly what we're doing, though.
What's that?
That's
what we're
exactly
doing.
what we're doing now.
No, but wait a second. Do you
No,
mean
it's
5
not.
days a week? The
4
kids?
days- 4 days a week.
Yeah, see, our kids only get 2 halves. She's saying 4. So
but
My
if
son
we're
gets
all doing
not-
a
my
blue
son
gold
gets
model,
none.
you're going to be
Flip-flop.
2 and 2.
It's, yeah.
They're
My-
doing 1 week on and 1 week off as opposed to 2 and 2.
right.
Yeah, that's what they're doing, and
Right.
we are off on
Same model.
Fridays. The kids are synchronous. We send work, and they are
But then the
Right.
kids who are home still get to view and watch those 4 days, right?
live. It's live.
Live.
But you
so
haven't
they're still
started
being
it yet,
instructed
right?
for so the difference, what you're saying, the kids
Is
who are
I'm with
home
them all day.
get to see live the instruction while they're home. So
Yes.
it's synchronous. Okay.
Yes, synchronous. Yep, synchronous. It's synchronous the
But
whole
you
way.
haven't started that yet, right?
My tech issue was to that, like why is there not cameras in the classroom when these teachers are live teaching? They step out for lunch and they come back into a classroom and they are present with their class all day.
And that's what's happening. That's what happens in my district. I literally log off, I take my lunch, I get right back on again. And now I'm in the morning, it could be, I'm with 2nd grade, And then I switch class because I'm the specialist. So if it's Mr. Annunziato's class, I push into Mr. Annunziato's Zoom. And then I leave Mr. Annunziato's Zoom and I go to Danielle's Zoom and I get on her Zoom. So the kids aren't having to switch. I'm the one switching. I'm the teacher. I'm switching the classes. And it's been working. At least our kids are seeing our faces every day.
I mean, two 1-hour Zooms for a fourth grader is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
And the teachers some teachers choose to go to the school. Some teachers stay home. Next week, we have to go everyone's going into school because we're preparing to go back.
Right.
And they're not changing their mind. It doesn't matter to them what the COVID is. But I really think we need to push towards that because my kids are losing out. And I see it's possible because I'm doing it. I'm living it every day.
You're running a virtual schedule.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments?
Joseph Jones. I live in the Highland Lake section of Vernon. I am a teacher at the high school. I'm also the varsity soccer coach. Short season, unfortunately. But we're rooting for field hockey, by the way. It's the state sectional championship on Saturday.
All right.
So
So, we'll need to be there.
let's go, Coach K.
Yep.
I also have 2 children in the district, and I know a vast majority of the parents here, I believe, are for elementary school. I just want to give a little perspective on what's going on at the high school. And I'm not speaking on behalf of the board. I'm not speaking on behalf of any other teachers. I'm just giving my experience. In my class, I chose to have a Zoom going on every single day. It's synchronous Monday, Wednesday, Friday. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, if your goal is virtual, I gave them the choice to come on. Here's the big issue. I had this on Tuesday. I was actually getting observed. Gold was home that day. For Gold and virtual, I have 18 students. Out of those 18 students, take a guess how many came to that Zoom? 1. Exactly. And I know this isn't so much maybe a problem with the younger kids. What do we do to hold those kids accountable if we're going to say everything's got to be synchronous? Do we give them a 0 for participation, but we don't want to give zeros? Do we just let them slide? I mean, it's a balancing act. We either have to force them to be there, and the only way you're going to force them to be there is for there to be some kind of repercussion.
Great.
If there's no repercussion, they're not going to show up. And I agree with everybody. I do a screencastify as well. I put my notes up if it's a lecture and they can watch it at home. It's not the same as hearing me. It's not the same as being one-on-one. This is also breaking my heart this year. My favorite days, it wasn't in the beginning, but now it's virtual days. Just because I can see the kids without a mask on. I see them for the first time without a mask on, and then I see them come in with a mask. There's just something different. The dynamic is different, and it's killing us. I see the impact it's having on my 2 children who are younger. The lack of socialization. I thank God, and again, I'm the varsity soccer coach. I will be 100% honest. In the summer, I was one of the coaches that said, no, let's not even start. I'm scared to death. And then selfishly, I saw the impact it was having on my son, my youngest son, not getting out, not being social. Thank God we at least got 1 season in. Thank God we at least got some things in. I'm scared to death for these kids and their mental well-being when we do shut down, unfortunately. But as Mrs. Smith said when she was up there, and the parents as well, we are in this together. We can't be talking about each other. We can't be saying, hey, what's this? What are you going to do? 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 We need a solution. We need to do it together as board, parents, teachers, administrators, everybody. And I really, truly hope we can because there are differences, and people are getting a little catty on both sides, every side. We need to throw that all aside. As horrible as it is to say, we don't matter right now. As parents, as teachers, the kids are what matter. We got to get through this for the kids. Thank you.
I apologize, but I'm going to have to run.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Stephanie Lukasik, Sussex side of Vernon. I have a question after the coach spoke. With our school closing, what's going to happen with sports? Are we going to be canceling them?
No. The NJSIA met, and they released dates to start the winter sports, the winter teams, and they're going to start hockey on December 14th, so that's a delay. And that, of course, is pretty much outside the school buildings. And then they are going to start some of the other winter sports on January 11th and have a delayed season into March and April, which will probably either have an overlap with the spring season or push the spring season.
So for Glen Meadow, my son's in Glen Meadow. I received information to sign up for indoor basketball and wrestling.
Right.
Is that going to be happening in the school building that we can't have the students in?
Right, so no, so what we have to do is we now have to go back to NJSIA. We wanted people to sign up just so that they knew that we were trying to do these things. We have to go back to NJSIA and say, when can we start the middle school sports? Can we start middle school sports, and what can we do?
So that doesn't come from the public health office
No.
that
well,
said we should close the schools?
No, NJSIA is the ones who are talking about how they're going to run the leagues. And without the leagues, we don't have anybody to play. So.
And my second question, if we are virtual until mid-January, are we going to be full day synchronous, so the kids get a full day of instruction?
The plan is from 9 to 2, yes. So.
Okay. And
the plan is synchronous.
so for my son who's in Glen Meadow, will he have 20-minute periods? What periods are they going to extend?
According to the plan that Ms. Gebhardt has put together with her staff, the periods are more like 35 or 32.
35?
I think those will go out tomorrow. In other
Okay.
words, all of the information
Principals
per
will be-
building will go out to families tomorrow, so that you have specific answers to some of these questions, like the length of the period, the exact minutes, so that you can plan.
Yeah, well, because 22 minutes is not great for trying to cover 7th grade math, you know?
Yes.
We need to start thinking, you know, extend the hours. We need more time. The kids, I mean, as someone else said, it's much easier for them to look up an answer than it is to really sit there and do the work. And, I mean, we came here knowing we were going to be shut down. It was no secret. But, I mean, we really have to put the focus on in-person 5 days immediately when we're yellow and we can come back. I mean, at this point, I know more people who pulled their children from the district, whether to homeschool or to go to Reverend Brown, Pope John Middle School. And I have to tell you, my kids are on every list. And I have been blue and gold from the beginning. I'm the woman who shows up with the donations. I'm the one who cooks for the teachers' luncheon. You know, I'm the one doing the 50-50 sales.
Sure.
And I have to tell you, this has been just the worst experience I've ever had with the school district. And I think you're going to lose a lot of your Gold Star parents. Ms. Cleary talked about losing a Gold Star teacher, and you guys have lost a lot of Gold Star parents who are ready to just pick it up and leave. So I suggest that, honestly, all you do is focus on how to make it better, and the kids that need in person, the kids who are choosing to be virtual for whatever their reasons are, I actually think they have it better than the kids who are getting 8 hours a week, because
No,
they don't
they
have
don't.
the flip-flop, you know? My son, one of my sons, he actually wants to be all virtual because he goes, it's just so much easier. Once I get into sync in class, it's time for me to get up and go to another class, you know? So it's just, we have a lot of work to do, and I have to tell you, this town has lost a lot of the support from the parents, and I'll just leave it at that, and thank you, and have a good Thanksgiving.
Are there any other public comments?
Carrie Baker, can you even hear me? Carrie Baker from the Pleasant Valley section. I'm not a good public speaker, so just gonna put that out there. But I have twins that are in 3rd grade, and I also have a senior. And I see the difference. My kids are in hybrid, and when they're home, I don't feel that they have any kind of interaction with their teachers. We get a 2-minute and 23-second direction on a brand-new lesson. I have a son who struggles, and I have a daughter, the third graders, and I have a daughter who is super shy, will not speak, and not seeing her teacher like live to even like try to like get anything out of her or anything. She's shut down. My son has shut down. But then I see my senior who is thriving, but she's live. Her teachers are there. I can walk up the stairs. I hear her talking. I can hear the teachers talking to her all the time, all hours, from 9 o'clock to 1:30 to 2 to sometimes 3:30. They're still on there talking to her and helping her. I don't get that kind of stuff for my third graders. And it's when you start a new lesson, you can't give a third grader who's already struggling and who already has a unique learning already. You can't give him 2 minutes and 34-second direction. And then what do you teach? He's not learning. He's not being taught anything. So then he sits there and he shuts down. He breaks down. I can't get him to work. So I don't know how much I can really push out of him. Am I doing the work for him? Is he passing because of me? Or is he passing because he really knows it? We know the answer. I am pulling, try again, bud. What's this, bud? I'm not getting any kind of support. Doesn't even have like a help folder. He can't read well, so he's thrown in a classroom where I don't even believe he belongs. He's with his twin sister, and I think that that's why he's there. Is that really a place for him? So, the hybrid schedule for my children in third grade is not working. I think maybe if we do more, even the videos, or they go on a Zoom for 10 minutes. Their 10-minute Zoom is, hi, how are you? Good morning. Good morning. How's your day? That's your dog. I'm like, and I'm working full-time. My husband's working full-time. I'm now trying to work from home. It is impossible to be a full-time worker, and I have a very high-demand job. My husband has another extremely high-demanded job, and I'm a teacher, and I'm a mom. It's just not working. I need help. We have things in place, but it's just not helping. It's not helping them. They are literally, I'm watching them fail. I'm watching my daughter shut down. On Monday when she went to school, they had to take her out of class because everything changed when she went to Monday to school. The students were different. She now doesn't switch classes. Now she's confused. She doesn't understand what's going on, and she's shutting down. The teacher had to take her out of the classroom. She had to go meet with a guidance counselor. That's never happened before. She's like high-spirited child. She is broken. She is shut down when they have a Zoom and they say good morning. Good morning. She doesn't know what, and like I said, I have a senior who's thriving, but they're live constantly. My senior, I hope when she goes to college, she does this kind of learning. She's thriving, but the difference is the high school teachers, they're there. My third grader teachers, they're not there.
Thank you. Thank you.
You need to reach out.
Are there any other public comments this evening?
Martin O'Donnell, Sussex section of Vernon. Just did a little research while I was sitting there, and Sussex County is one of only 2 counties in New Jersey that is currently orange, and only a stone's throw away from red. Indeed, our governor has said it's okay, we're still going to open schools. However, he's catching a lot of pressure from one of the strongest unions in New Jersey. Sussex County, the whole state's going to go red. I'm pretty confident in saying that, looking at the data. And when, and he probably will, fold, Governor Murphy says everybody's got to be virtual, okay? It sounds to me like we have a virtual program that is in place, but there's no standards, okay? And it's kind of broken. So I think we need to focus on that, because next year's an election year, okay? And Murphy is, I think he will fold, okay? And I think he will make the whole state go virtual. So we need to fix this so that these children that don't flourish in this virtual environment have a chance. Because we could be virtual until March, April, who knows? But we need to be prepared for that, because it might happen really quick. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments this evening? Seeing none, we'll close it to the public at this time, and item N is open board member forum.
I'd just like to say something that we, as a board, I'm just speaking as for myself, as a board member, that I've listened very carefully to what the public has said, and I am, of course, disheartened, but I'm happy to hear what you're saying, because we need to have this kind of feedback so that we can act on it. And please don't feel like we are not listening. We are listening, and we have not shut you out. I don't not mean to say that. We're not closed-minded. We're open-minded, and we can see your frustration and the tears on your. I'm sorry, but we appreciate your passion for what you're saying, and we are going to work with you. We're going to try. I had 2 meltdowns today. It's hard as hell. I'm sorry, but we hear you. We're not closed. We're open. We're going to try. We don't have a plan. We just don't have it right now, but we will try.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney.
So there was a lot going on there, and I just want to say that I share all of your frustrations. I've had a really rough time with virtual this year. I do think that, the best intentions went into the plan that we have, and clearly, based on our experiences collectively, it needs some work. But I think, people are committed to working on it. Regarding the county health, Governor Murphy, I don't know. I feel like he gave some sort of mixed messages. His statement today was what it was, but a while back he told us we have to listen to the county health department, and that's what we're doing. So I don't know. I feel like he's sort of just shirking the blame for this, but we have to, we have to do what's safe. And as much as we all want to be in person 5 days a week, full days, we haven't been able to accommodate safety in that situation. We keep trying, and we keep coming up with plans, and there are problems. So, it's not that it's not it's been a top priority of the district. My kids are virtual only, so, it doesn't really affect me per se, but I know that they've worked very hard on plans, and every time we get close to it, it just something stops it from happening, but the intent is there, and I feel like Karen's doing a lot of apologizing, but she has worked really hard at getting there. I just want you all to know that. I understand that, it's a bad situation all around, and I share it. My kids are, it's been, I don't want to get personal, but let's just say that I've had my breakdowns too. So, and regarding fixing virtual, I think we have to kind of huddle and figure out what to do. We've taken down a lot of your comments, and we'll look at them, but a couple ideas regarding, I've heard a lot about consistency. We talked about teachers giving leniency for grades. I've found that to be very inconsistent, so maybe the district needs a policy on that. Like, maybe there's no late grades, maybe you get automatically a week, but some teachers are giving. I know you're saying that they're not, but some of them, I know from personal experience, I know from stories I've heard, they're giving zeros. One day is 20%, another day is 20%, and the next day is a zero. That's happening. So maybe we need to cut the kids some slack. Maybe that would help with these, the failure rates and the loss of the checking out after they fall behind so far they feel like they can't catch up ever. And consistency with schedules would be good. The Zooms, they're all over the map. We don't have them the same days with the same classes, so a teacher might have one on Monday one week and Tuesday the next week. Maybe they're going to be every day now that we're virtual. I don't know, but it would be good if they were consistent. And it would be good if teachers had a little Zoom training maybe, because I know I know they're doing their best, but sometimes kids are waiting in the waiting room. So things like that, we could work on some of the glitches, and maybe that would help some of the experiences of parents. But I think we do need to huddle and come up with solutions to improve clearly what we're doing. That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just like to build on what everybody else said. I'd like to thank the parents for coming out tonight. I'm also a parent. I have kids in the district. I've been in education for a long time, so I sit on the seesaw, both sides, educator, Board of Ed member, parent. My seesaw constantly goes up and down. And so thank you all for your input. My specialty in education is special education. That's what I've been in for my whole career. So I'm the chairperson of special services. Granted, I am not allowed by any means to administer the school, but from a special education perspective, please feel free to reach out to your case manager, reach out to administrator. Feel free to reach out to me. I can't do anything to administer, but what I can do, all board members can do, is we are allowed to take a parent concern, a parent issue, a parent appreciation, anything you want to pass along, and then I or any other board member then have an obligation to pass it along to an administrator, to Ms. Davino, the superintendent. So if you have concerns and you feel as though while you're going through your chain of command, I'm just going to go through a chain of command. Let's say you go to the teacher, you're not satisfied. If you're in special ed, you go to the case manager, you're not satisfied. You move up to the principal, you're not satisfied. Then you move up to the supervisor of special education, you're not satisfied. You can then go to Dr. McKay, who's the assistant superintendent, you're not satisfied. Please, by all means, go to Ms. Davino, the superintendent. If you're still not satisfied, please then reach out to me from a special services perspective, or any board member by any means. And then what I do, or any board member, I'm just talking from a special services standpoint, is then I can backtrack and I can take it back to Ms. Davino and I can say, this parent has gone through their chain of command. This has to be dealt with. Granted, like I said, none of us board members are allowed to administer the school district, and sometimes that's something I really like to explain. Like Mr. Sweeney said, we're listening. I think a lot of people often think that board members have a ton of power and we can walk in and say, do this right now. We are in charge of three things. We are in charge of the superintendent, policy, and finance. Can we expand into our different committees and different areas to handle? Yes. But we cannot walk into a school and say to a principal, you need to do this. If we did that, we could have ethics violations brought upon us. We could be brought off the board. If we went into Dr. McKay or Ms. Davino and said, you have to do this right now because I said it, I'm a board member, that could be an ethical violation, would be an ethical violation, and we could have an ethics violation against us. We could get kicked off the board, sanctioned, whatnot. So what I always explain to people, because I know how frustrating it is, I explain the chain of command. I'm always open, especially from a special education perspective. I also work with the parent CPAG group, the Special Education Parent Advisory Group. For anyone in special education, I'd be more than happy to explain that. They are a parent-run group. They're independently run by parents. You can reach out to them. Whenever the leadership for the CPAG contacts either myself or Ms. Davino, they want to meet with us, then they come in, their leadership. So it's the CPAG leadership, the Special Education Board Committee, which is myself as chair, Ms. Mitchell, Brad, Sparta, and Dr. Peak. Those are the four of us that are on it. We will sit down with the CPAG leadership, the four members, plus the administration, and sometimes the supervisors from special services, and they will bring to us issues or concerns, and we can discuss things from a special services perspective. The way that works is it has to be what we call systemic and pervasive, They cannot handle a single individual complaint. Like if a parent comes to them and says, my child, and that you tell them an issue, the CPAG is not there to handle an individual issue, but they will write it down because possibly yesterday another parent called with the same exact issue. That makes it 2, whether it's 2 desks, 2 rooms, 2 children, 2 of something, makes it systemic and pervasive. They can move forward into looking into it. So from a special education, special services, related services perspective, here's my name. Feel free to reach out, email me. But again, I ask you to please go through your chain of command. But if there's anything I can do, if there's any way I can help out for resources working with the administration, I'd be more than happy to. But I wanted to thank you all for coming tonight and sharing all of that. I know as a parent, it is not easy to stand up in front of the podium to strangers on video and explain issues that your children are having. It's very difficult. It's very emotional as a mother. I completely understand. I've been there. I'm still there some days. So thank you all very much for coming. So I wanted to thank everybody, and I just wanted to...
Fathers understand too.
Yeah. Actually, today's my husband's birthday, so he understands a lot because I'm here. So, but thank you all for coming. So I just wanted to take that opportunity to explain the chain of command and special education. Related services, just so everyone understands, that's like your therapies, your speech, your OT, PT. That's some kids just get that, others get special education. But I'd be more than happy to help any way I can. Just so you know, the first thing I'm going to ask you is, did you go through your chain of command? And I will refer it off to the superintendent and assistant superintendent and go that way. But please feel free, special ed issues and also mental health. That's under the special services as well too. But thank you.
Thank you, Teresa.
In student life, you could always come to student life.
Yeah, Mrs. Mitchell, student life. She's like pixie dust. She like sprinkles it and then
Yes.
everyone smiles.
So
Yeah,
when
that's like her
when
specialty.
children are having like a shutdown, meltdown, if you can email me your thoughts and some stories, we work on that collectively in our group all the time. So I really would encourage you to share your stories via email, so that that's something that we bring to the Student Life Committee to enhance the students' experience with the school district. So that's another avenue that I would ask you if you could send your emails in, because we do pay attention to every single one, and we work on events and projects that we could do to enhance their experience, whether they be all virtual or hybrid or what have you. We recently had a drive-in movie night for the seniors. That was very, very successful, and a lot of the feedback from those seniors was that they finally felt like engaged and their voices were heard. So it's really important that whatever age level your students are in, if you could just email us and tell us a little bit about their experience, because we want to enhance that through student life and our committee.
So I'll just reiterate all the comments about, coming out and expressing everybody's opinion, but also want to acknowledge Karen and the decision that she had to make today, which was extremely difficult. And I know she doesn't take it lightly, and it had to be a hard decision. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for really putting the safety. I mean, safety is our number one goal. It's our number one district goal. And, I think putting that safety issue with all of the concerns surrounding the virus at the forefront. And it wasn't easy. I know it wasn't easy. And you're not in a very good position. And then I want to leave lastly on a sort of my positive note, and that is Karen doesn't like to toot her own horn, but she missed out on the informational matters. She presented a spooky table at the Halloween trail or treat. So volunteered an additional evening of her time for that very fabulous event that the PAL undertook. And hopefully that gets some traction. And it is quite a good experience beyond just the trunk or treat, where you just go from car to car. You actually have to walk around Maple Grange to earn your candy. And so Karen spent the evening giving out candy, and just wanted to point that out. So thank you.
It was a great event.
It was.
The police department and the PAL did an outstanding job.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I just want to very briefly reiterate what other board members have said this evening. And it's not lip service when I say that we do hear what members of the public say when they come to our meetings. I think that for most of us sitting up here, probably all of us sitting up here, we're heartbroken when we hear stories about how we're not adequately meeting the needs of our students. I think we know that we're not, but it's very important that you share that with us firsthand. Clearly, there are things that need to improve. I don't think that we will ever get to a point of this being perfect until the COVID-19 pandemic has passed. But that doesn't mean that we don't keep trying and listening to feedback from members of the VTEA when they come, parents when they come to our meetings. We have to keep working at it. I just want to say that I'm concerned about the direction that we're going in with the COVID numbers. I think everybody is. I jumped a little bit when you said the number 34 during your report, Ms. Davino, just because it's such a shocking number when you think to where we were 3 or 4 months ago when we had 3 or 4 cases per 100,000 in our region. You know, that's a tenfold increase. When you're looking at a 10% testing positivity rate, you know, that shows that this increase isn't just because we're testing more. The virus is becoming more pervasive in our region, and the realities of that are very scary for what this means for the coming months. We know that hospitalization rates and death rates lag behind infection rates by a period of a number of weeks. So I just implore everyone to please keep that in mind in all of these considerations, and just personally to please be safe over the holiday season that we're going into. You know, but I just want to reiterate my appreciation for you taking the time out of your evening tonight to be here and to share your firsthand experiences. I do have a few housekeeping items for the board. I know that everybody's probably ready to start wrapping up, but there are a few small items I want to discuss before we finish this evening. I'm just looking at my notes here. Ms. Coughlin, was there a specific job description you referenced earlier in the meeting that you would like to still get from the administration? I just want to make sure we get follow-up on that. I think you said the CST assistant.
I have it.
You have that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay, so
that'd be nice
you'll
to
pass
see.
that on?
Yeah, I have copies of it for everybody.
Okay. I do want to talk about how we want to handle hybrid or remote meetings going forward. Our next meeting is not until December 10th, but we as a board need to identify a metric, we either need to make a decision this evening if we're going to have remote meetings for December 10th or not, or identify a metric for what would trigger a remote meeting, whether that means getting into the red zone. You know, that may be a applicable trigger for that. How does the rest of the board feel?
I feel like we should offer remote participation to our public. I feel like we lost, we muzzled a good portion of people.
Not to the public, we're talking about us.
No, I know, but it's
But
related,
if
right?
we do, we
If
have
we
to
do,
then
then they-
implement the state
yeah.
regulation for
I think
public
we have to be
participation.
prepared to meet those regulations because we don't know what's going to happen. So we need to, get what the conference call number, all of
Mhm.
those
But even
steps
if
in
we're,
place.
well, I mean, you're saying that you'd be open to doing them remotely then?
No, I'd rather be in
Or
person, but we need to be prepared because that's probably going to be likely what's going to happen.
But I think
And-
we're exempted from those requirements, no? Like the board?
Right now we are.
As of
Right
this-
now we are.
So
as of
you're
this
you're
moment.
thinking it might get, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
If it changes, there's nothing we can do. I would
Right.
rather be in person. I think we get more done when we're in
Mhm.
person.
Sure.
So I would rather be in person, but if it changes where we can't, then.
Do you
really
think
don't
that
have
if
choice.
we go into a red zone, that would be an appropriate time to move to the remote or at least hybrid meeting so that it's an option for members of the board and
Yeah, I
members
mean,
of
we
the
can make
public.
that the metric, right? So
Right.
if it goes into the red zone, we agree that then we would do a hybrid or
Yeah, because
whatever they
I'm,
feel
you know, like
comfortable.
I'm comfortable coming here, wearing a mask, socially distanced. I don't know everybody's individual circumstances. If they or a family member may need to attend, you know, because of themselves or a family member, they may need to attend virtually. Members of the public may need to attend virtually. So,
Yeah, I'm not like super comfortable with it because I do have that situation, but
Sure.
I would be willing to come in person. I'm more concerned about the public though aspect of it. I don't think it's, you know, I think there are a lot of, we have, as we know, 33% of virtual only families who probably don't feel comfortable coming here and they should be able to participate. So that means we have to be hybrid, you know, in order to have to meet their needs, I guess. So if we all want to pledge ourselves that we'll be here in person, you know, as much as possible, but I still think we need to open it for the public. Otherwise, we're not able to hear from a good percentage of our people.
Well, so
And
that
as we
means
can
that we would
hear,
have to open up
we
that
just-
chat
we
room
just-
again that we just talked about.
not the
that we-
YouTube chat. We wouldn't be able to use the YouTube chat.
We would
So what
use-
would you do?
So Matt indicated in his email a few ideas. Matt, do you mind sharing with the board?
Matt is going to save the day.
I'm sorry?
Again.
There you go.
Do you have your Nintendo coat, Matt?
Hello, everybody. Oh, it's right over there.
All
I'll go get
right,
it.
good.
Yeah, so I've been trying to read a lot of legalese. I actually read all 7 pages of the new law last night. I took 5 pages of notes that I won't bother you with. But there's 3 things you must do, and then there's a couple of options that you can do. So if you have a hybrid meeting, if even one person says, hey, I need to zoom in, you must, A, allow the public to also participate via audio and video. You must. You must also allow the video to participate via telephonic conference call, which Zoom can do. I just haven't played with it that much. What's a telephone? And number 3, you must also allow emails before the meeting and have a deadline. Now, whether that goes to Donna, whether that goes to Jen Smith, but you have to allow someone that can't participate because they have bad internet or whatever, that they must be able to email. You can optionally accept YouTube comments, but that is not required. So it's kind of like a flip-flop on what we were doing. We were taking the YouTube comments, and we weren't doing the audio and video. But the state says if you do hybrid, you must have audio and video available, telephone, and email.
So the public would zoom in
Correct.
So
the entire time?
no. So can you explain the panelist and attendee
Yes.
concept?
So in Zoom, instead of a Zoom conference call, you do a Zoom webinar, and so
okay.
there's panelists, you, and then there are attendees, you. So the attendees get to come in. They're not allowed to turn on their microphone. They're not allowed to turn on their video. We could or could not allow them to use the chat. Like basically, they get to just watch on the Zoom, and then they raise their hand digitally for the public comments, and then I allow them to turn on their microphone and camera. They get to say their question on the
And
Zoom.
then we would be able to see them?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
But if they did not want to participate during public comments that way, they could speak in through the telephonic option.
Correct. So Zoom allows phone calls in. So if you can't get in front of a computer, you don't have internet, you're traveling, you can call in via phone. The only part I'm not sure about is on the phone. How do you queue and raise your hand? I need
Right,
to.
that's a question.
How
I
do
need
they
to
get
play.
that
I need to
phone
play with that
number?
part of it.
How would they get that phone
The
number
meeting
to
notice?
call?
Oh, the same way when
okay.
when we publicly post in the meeting notice, here's the Zoom link, here's the phone number to call in if you'd like to call in, here's the meeting number, here's how you raise your hand. So that's another piece of it is, and so this is some work for Donna and Jen. In your meeting notice, you have to include more. You're supposed to include it either in the meeting notice or near the meeting notice in proximity. And that also includes if you're going to have a presentation, that must also be available either in your meeting notice or near it. So normally I don't get the PowerPoints until like 5 minutes before the meeting. We would need it 48 hours before the meeting so we could post it with the meeting notice. So there's some other tricks, but really the big ones are if even one person says, hey, I need to be hybrid, you must allow the public to also be hybrid.
Okay.
Audio, video, telephone.
And how many
in email.
people can be on that Zoom?
We have a license for 300.
You-
The state says you must at least allow for 50, but we can far exceed that.
And there's times when our YouTube channel will have a couple hundred if it's a hot button.
The
topic.
high so far has been 400. Yeah.
Right. So how would that be handled?
That's up to you guys. If you think I'm that good that I can manage a Zoom with hundreds of people and manage a YouTube chat channel with hundreds, I can try.
Well, we
but-
think you're that good, but should you have to do
Just
that?
do the
Yeah,
YouTube
that's the
for
question.
live stream.
Yeah.
And do the Zoom for comments.
Yeah,
for
right.
public
At
comments.
least start that way, and if
Yeah.
I feel really in control, like, hey, I'm doing a great job with the Zoom, let's include YouTube comments as well.
I
but-
think I think it would make sense to only have the Zoom comments, to not,
Right.
there would be no point to have the YouTube comments.
Right.
Yeah.
I've not
No,
I've
I
not
think
seen a
that would be
district. I've seen a lot of districts do it different ways. I've not seen one do their live stream comment and the Zoom comment. It's normally one or the other. And now the state's requiring the Zoom.
Right.
So
So at the beginning of the public comment section, when I referenced all of the regulations that we're trying to make sure that we're in compliance with and the reason for the change for this meeting, this is what I was referencing. We're making sure that we're in compliance before moving forward. So for December 10th, I personally feel that if we are in a red zone, that we should consider that the metric for allowing the hybrid participation for board members, unless a majority of the board
I
at this
agree.
time feels that we should simply go straight to that.
No, I agree with that. That's a good metric to use.
I
Because
think so.
then we would want to be safe ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only
We should plan
prob-
for it.
We should plan for it. We should continue to troubleshoot this and
Yeah. you need
and
to-
have a plan
yeah,
in place.
The only problem is then we are limiting public the public can't participate unless they want to be here in person, right? Until we go red, right?
Mhm.
So
Under
that's
that
the only-
plan.
So if we don't go red, we're not hearing from part of our community. That's my only concern. I mean, could we have a policy where if we're in person only, people can submit questions or comments by email in advance? Like, would that be a way to bridge that gap? Because I just know that I
if you're
heard
in
from a lot
person,
of
the
people.
law says you can do whatever the heck you want. So if you want YouTube comments, if you want emails, then it's board policy. It's only for the emergency meetings
Okay.
for hybrid meetings.
So yeah, I would like to suggest that we then accept email questions or comments, in advance, because otherwise, all the people who reached out to me and said, "Why can't I, comment tonight?" are not being accommodated.
I'm
And
going to
that
be
would-
virtual the next two meetings. I won't be able to make it. I'm serious.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I will be virtual the next two meetings, so.
Oh, well, there you
we'll
go.
have to
So
have-
maybe we need.
So if a board member
I'm not
go-
being difficult.
No, not at all. I completely understand why, I'm just saying if a board member, if even one needs to go virtual,
He
then
did.
we have to allow the public to
That's
go
what I'm
virtual.
saying.
So
Right.
we have
So
to
then we
allow
need
it.
to get,
Yes.
you need to get that ready.
So we have.
I'll be ready.
Be
I
ready.
can do this.
So we need to be.
So-
we need to just do it then.
Okay.
Yes.
So is everybody fine then for the December 10th meeting
be a
to
hybrid.
implementing a plan along the lines of what Matt is presenting?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yep.
sounds good.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Yes.
What's the deadline for submitting questions?
I think
if
it-
they want to do that? What?
I think it was
The
subjective.
email is actually up to us. They don't say a deadline. So you could say, please submit by 5 p.m., please submit the day
Right.
before.
Yeah,
That was not spelled out in the law.
Yeah.
Right. I think we should do end of business the day of the meeting, so your offices close around 4,
Till 4 o'clock?
correct? Right, so, if possible, Matt, can we set up a separate email, so that way we don't mix those with the other business that goes through all of everybody
Yeah.
else's inbox, like
Yes.
public comments at vtsd.com?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
And we just need to make sure that all of this is reflected in the meeting notice for December 10th?
Right.
Will we also need to know how many people are virtual or hybrid? In other words, if everybody is
You mean board members?
board members, yeah. Typically, somebody from the office will ask how many people are attending.
Oh,
virtually,
right.
Yeah.
or- Because otherwise, we could be completely virtual.
I'd like to continue to try to, for the
Have
board members
some.
that are comfortable attending in person,
Okay,
I would like to continue to attend in person,
Yeah, I would too.
but make it an option.
okay.
Is everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Then we'll just
Yeah.
hold, see.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions on that? All right, thank you everyone for getting that sorted out.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay. Are there any other comments for open board member forum? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Sweeney, second.
Second.
Mr. Bucieri, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Mr. Sweeney?